Hi, welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me get my screens here a little better organized. I did something tonight that I never do. I fell asleep. It's not that I never fall asleep. That's not true. It's that I never like mistakenly fall asleep. Doze off when I'm supposed to be somewhere. And so, hold on a second. I'm trying to fix this here. I don't want the live chat so big. No, go that way. Oh my gosh, that made it worse. Hold on. Sorry, guys. What? Stop grabbing both. Okay, that works, I guess. All right. Welcome, welcome. Hello. Let's make sure we're actually live. Welcome to the Nurse Penny Show. Let's make sure we're actually live on Rumble. Of course, everything's now on the way. And refresh. Play. All right, we're good. Okay. Get my tabs back up here. What a day. Okay, hold on. StreamYard. And that's gotta go over here. Why is that fall? Something's falling. Hold on. I think my cords are just pushing out. Okay. Where's my stream? Give me just a minute, guys. I'm all out of sorts. I don't perform well when late. Okay. StreamYard, is it this one? It's this one. Okay. Goodness sakes. Okay, when you get here, leave a comment in the chat. I'm going to leave one just to make sure it's working. There we go. Hey, AJ. Wendy Wilder. Hi from Oregon. Well, welcome to you from Oregon. Beautiful, beautiful state. Make sure I can see my Rumble folks here. Where's my chat? There it is. Okay. All right. Hopefully we're good. I can't see if anybody's on Rumble because I have my screen switched, which we'll see if that proves to be a disaster or not. I can't even get the thing back going. Just talk amongst yourselves. It's going to take me a little minute. I woke up at 8:12, and luckily, I had already gotten most of this set up, but I had to bring the computer down and run down here and everything. Let's get sewing. Hello. And run down here like a maniac. Sonia, hey, okay, good. The live chat's working. They made this new feature where you can pop out your live chat on Rumble so that you don't have to have that whole big Rumble screen up and you can just have a smaller screen. So I think this will work better. We'll get there's Bloggerty Schmoo. I'm going to have a hard time seeing my comments is the only issue. Hello, playing golf. Was I playing golf? Oh gosh, no. I spent the day with my brother. Today was my brother's, yesterday actually, 787SC777X. Yes, all right. Yesterday was his 54th birthday, and I have guardianship over him. He has an intellectual disability. And so today I went up and I took him because he was having like a surprise party at his day program. And so today I went up and got him and took him to lunch and I took him for like a real barbershop treat, right? So we went and they did where they, put the hot towel on you and the warm lather and everything. And they straight razor shaved him, the whole thing, in his ears, up his nose, his eyebrows, the whole thing. It was great. We were there an hour and 10. I thought he was going to fall asleep. And I took a picture and I sent it to my mail, but for some reason it didn't come up. But I wanted to show it to you guys. He's so sweet. I love him so much. He's just the epitome of joy. All right, let me see. Can you guys see that? Isn't that sweet? He's got all this shaving cream on his head. He was so adorable. I love spending time with him. And I'm going to tell you this little story because, hi, Enlighten. Boy, that camera's really going to be a problem. I cannot see my chat. Maybe, wait a minute, maybe if we move it over just a little. So anyway, it was really fun to spend, there, that's better. It was really fun to spend time with him because I don't get to see him a lot. He lives about 40 minutes from me. And, I see him at family things, but it's just, that one-on-one time that I really enjoy with him. And he was so excited that, I called him and told him I was going to come up and everything. Oh, it was great. So the reason I tell you this is because every fist fight I've ever been in has been over John. People calling him retard, making fun of him, pushing him around, kids not letting him sit next to them on the bus. sliding over in their seat so he can't sit next to them. And so, I always sat with him, and my friends were his friends or they weren't my friends. And um, he's just incredible. I believe there are these selfless souls that come to the earth that know they're not going to be able to take care of themselves, but they come to the earth to teach us how to love. And that is just him. He's just all love. And so the reason I tell you this, because besides that he's great and I love him, is that Steven Crowder did a show, I want to say last week or somewhere around there. And he was talking about the Down syndrome Barbie. And there was a girl on the ad that they were playing to show it, with Down syndrome, beautiful red dress on. And she's kind of dancing around, super excited about the Barbie. And Steven Crowder and his crew made fun of her. And I'm like, okay, look, if there is any group of people that I think it is off base to make fun of, it's the disabled. And it's not like he just made a disabled joke or something. There was an actual disabled person on the screen that he was showing with him near it, with him in the same shot, basically making fun of her for being a retard and being stupid to have a retarded doll. And I'm like, I'm done. Whatever they said about how awful you were to your wife, I believe you. Because if you can be mean like that beautiful girl dancing, so excited about getting that doll, I'm like, this isn't like a drag queen doll. These are people who are born with a disability. It's not a choice. He's not disability fluid. He's disabled every damn day of his life. And for somebody like Steven Crowder, with the platform he has, to make fun of those people, and it's not the first time he's done it, but he's never done it like where he's making fun of an actual disabled person that you can see. It's just been, like people will call somebody who's acting stupid, a retard, which I never liked, but people do it. But I wouldn't stop following you for that reason, because it's just one of those things that caught on. It's in very poor taste. But when he did that, I was like, nope. No, you're going to have to do some serious repenting before I would ever consider watching you again, because I have been in more fights protecting my brother from people who called him a retard or a stupid retard, or the girl that came up to him in high school and said, who was bullying me, but then found out I had a disabled brother. And so she goes and she finds him, and she's like, hey, do you want to be my boyfriend? And he's like, yeah, you're pretty. And she's like, oh, that's cool. Do you want to kiss me? And he says, yeah. And she says, oh, well, too bad. I'd never let a stupid retard like you kiss me. And I beat that girl until I was too tired to hit her anymore. Who does that? I'm like, why don't you just kick puppies? You're a monster. Now, you've picked on me for 3 years. You've shoved me down the hall on my face every single day, and I have not fought back because you've always got some beefy gang of girls with you. But today you went too far. And I didn't have any trouble with her after that, and neither did John. But I just, who does that? I just can't. I was absolutely mortified. Absolutely mortified. And so when I went up to see him today, I was thinking, supposedly we have all these marginalized groups, right? So you've got the LGBTQIA, which I don't even think is the LGs and the Bs. I think it's the Ts and the rest. That keep telling us, that we're killing them. There's a genocide against them. And they, trans rights are human rights. And I'm like, human rights are trans rights. What rights don't you have? We don't have a right to exist. I'm like, are you not sitting there bitching right now? It strikes me that you're existing. Not only are you existing, but you're shoving your crap down everyone else's throat. You want to know who's really marginalized? People with disabilities. My brother lived up in Lexington in a care home. And these are small homes. They're not like group homes. Like he was the only person in the home besides the family. And he wanted to live in Lexington, wanted to have his independence and not, feel like his sister was his mom and, live with me. And for over a year during COVID, these care homes decided, without any legal mandate, that these disabled people could not leave their homes. And I'm not just talking, couldn't go out to the grocery store, could not go to their day programs. I was told if I came and got him and took him physically to a doctor's appointment, that he would not be able to return to his home. He would be rendered homeless that day. That's how bad it was. He couldn't even go for a ride in a car with the caregiver that he lives with, the caregiver who leaves her house and goes out every day, who takes her daughter to the movies, whose husband works outside the home every day, whose daughter is in and out coming back and forth between parents. And I'm like, what additional risk does he pose to anyone in that house? They're already going out. Well, we eventually figured out that she was making him take, because we couldn't go see him. We weren't allowed to go over there. We could call him on the phone, but I mean, how much can you figure out when the caregiver's sitting right there? So we go up there, and I had been expressing concerns. So he finally, this caregiver had a birthday party, and that she had assured the people. Now I can't go see him, but she can have a birthday party. So she's like, oh, we're going to have it outside. We're not going to eat. We're going to be on opposite sides of the yard. It's no big deal. Well, all of that was lies. When everybody got there, they were in the house, no masks, eating. There wasn't supposed to be any food. And then they made John stay in his room. And so he would go down, and say, hey, and they're like, no, go back to your room. We'll bring you cake. And so he called me, and he's like, yeah, they're having the party, but I got to stay upstairs. I'm like, but that's out. Why can't you be downstairs and outside? Well, they're not outside, they're inside, and they don't have their masks on. After I was told I could not see my brother for a year, like Christmas, anything, nothing. And this was supposedly legal. And I'm raising 90 kinds of hell with the state. And I said, we have a human rights council here. So every person has human rights, even disabled people. And the lockdowns had long since been stopped, and he wasn't allowed out of the house. And then I was told that he would be homeless if I took him to a doctor's appointment. And so so finally, I call his caseworker on this Saturday when they're having this party, and I tell her what's going on. And so they get with the management, who doesn't go over and check on John or anything. And then the caregiver leaves the house and leaves him with the husband who's sleeping, and John's outside. And I'm like, John, if you're outside, where is everybody else? Well, so-and-so's sleeping. And then everybody else went for a ride in the car together, which strikes me as less than 6 feet, no masks. And I'm thinking, is anybody even keeping an eye on him? So I have him walk around to the front yard. Well, he wasn't allowed to touch their mailbox because I didn't want him touching their mail, which I didn't know. And he's like, well, I can only go, so far. I can't go to the mailbox. And I'm like, walk out to the mailbox and stay on the phone with me. And so he walks out to the mailbox, and I'm like, just stand there and talk to me. Nobody comes out. And I'm like, no one is watching him. He could very well be upset about everything that's happened today and take off walking, and nobody would know. And so I'm on the phone. The manager ends up calling her, and then she immediately evicts him, which is illegal. Even if she wants him out of the house, he is allowed to live there until we find him an appropriate placement. She called me, and she's like, you come get him. So I'm throwing everything together. I'm like, crap. I drive up there. When I get there, it's dusk. And I had called him, and I said, buddy, I'm going to come get you. I didn't tell him everything that was going on because it would upset him. And he said, okay, well, I'm just going to wait on the porch. And I said, John, it'll take me an hour and a half, to get everything together and get up there. That's okay. I'll sit outside. And I'm like, please just, sit inside. It's chilly out. And so I get there. It's dusk. He's on the porch alone. No one is in sight. And all of his stuff is in trash bags. All the stuff that she could pack up that quick. The rest of the stuff, after he left, she packed up and put in her garage, poured mouthwash all over his stuff. He's got very expensive comic books that have collector's value, all kinds of like Marvel, the real thick hardback books. She'd put like his shaving razors in with towels. So, you go in to grab a towel and you accidentally get a shaving razor cut, which I did. And when they had it shipped up here to storage, I said, would you please make sure everything is boxed up and neat and labeled? Sent it all in trash bags, crumbled up pictures that were on his wall, broke a picture that I had given him as a gift of me and him together. And when I pick him up, I'm like, oh my gosh, John, how much weight have you lost? He's like, well, I don't know. I keep telling him I can't keep my pants up. I need smaller pants. And I had seen him a month before. I cannot remember why. I think I went up and I talked to him outside or something. And he was fitting his pants. So I take him to the doctor. She's like, he's down 30 pounds. So she was so worried that she even tested him to make sure he wasn't being poisoned. This is how bad the abuse was. The agency did absolutely nothing about it, took her side on everything, and she has a foster baby that's a preemie. Did not report it to the state, which is required by law. So I ended up reporting everything. And do you want to know what they did? Absolutely nothing. And when the guy called me and told me he was closing the case because it was unfounded, I'm like, how would John lose 30 pounds when he's not allowed to leave the house and they're the only ones responsible for feeding him? He can't get into the food because he has like an obsessive eating thing. So John's not going to lose weight on his own. If he's losing weight, somebody's not feeding him. And he's like, well, I've reviewed his extensive medical records. And as soon as he said that, I knew he was lying, because John had recently started with that doctor, and he had only been like, in the year or so that he'd been seeing her, he'd only been 2 or 3 times. So the medical record is by far not. He said, I reviewed a stack of paperwork. I said, you did? I said, so you requested his medical records from his doctor? Yes, ma'am, I did. And they said they were feeding him. And John said he could get a snack if he wanted it. And I find this to be unfounded. I'm like, well, how do you explain a 30-pound weight loss in a month? And he's like, ma'am, I don't know. Maybe he just wasn't eating. And I'm like, oh yeah, that John's not eating. I'm sure that's what it is. So anyway, I called the doctor's office and I said, I want to know what requests there have been for John's medical records. And there had been none. He absolutely lied to me. So I reported all to the ombudsman. Absolutely nothing happens. And this is how disabled people are handled in the state of Kentucky. So I don't want to hear anybody who can go outside and walk and dye their hair purple and make a decision to get their penis cut off telling me how they're a marginalized population. That is holding somebody hostage. It is against the law. And the only way I actually got him able to be out of his house, like when day programs started up, was that I said, I want a meeting before the Human Rights Commission, and you're going to have to tell me under what law you can keep him in that house as a prisoner and not let his family see him, not let him go anywhere, not even let him go to the doctor. And they said, well, the Human Rights Commission's not going to look into it because it's COVID. And I said, by law, you are required to bring this meeting if I request it. I'm formally requesting it. I want it done. And then suddenly he could go to day program. That was the only way. And so I was looking, and they're like, well, the cabinet says that, they're not allowed to see family. And I'm like, right, the cabinet can say whatever they want. Show me the law, show me the mandate. Well, we'll get in trouble. And I'm like, okay, well, then tell me what the penalty is. Because if this is against the law and you're not allowed to do it, there's a penalty if you do. No, there wasn't. The cabinet was just deciding these things, and it didn't matter what anybody else thought. And the thing was, if John had been in a care home with other residents, that would have been different, because he doesn't have a right to endanger their health. Something just died. But it was just him. And I'm like, he's not endangering anybody. They're already going out. I'm like, you can't treat every person. My computer is acting really weird, guys. If something happens, my K stopped working the other day. I hope nothing's going to happen. Anyway, it was horrible. You're bouncing between here and Salty Janik. I'm so over it. I'm so tired of people who are not victims pretending to be victims. I've had my fill. I won't hear it anymore. They can pound sand. I would say worse, but I'm trying to keep a civil tongue in my head. But anyway, see what happens when I get a nap. It's not good. I wanted to remind you guys at the outset that we are doing our Tuesday morning book clubs at 10 a.m. Eastern. We started last week, and we actually got through chapter 8. But we skipped the first 2 because they weren't necessary to the story. They were kind of like a forward. And but it went really well. Everybody's really enjoying the book. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. Come, because I read the chapters, and we have a good discussion, and it just was really good. I think we're at like 800 people that saw that at very short notice. I had just said we were going to do it the week before. So I'm tickled to death that people showed up, and I think it's going to be great going forward too. 787 says, so sorry for your brother's treatment. I know this was the worst situation for him as a disabled person, but his whole life is full of them. Bloggerty Shmoo. Oh, I keep forgetting to pop those comments up, you guys. I'm sorry. There we go. Bloggerty Shmoo says, if you don't press the like button, the last remaining white rhinos on Earth will go sterile and never breed again. Yeah, you know what? I think I read that somewhere. So, like right here in the comments section, I was telling my husband that it's become kind of a running joke in here to now make up horrible things that could happen if you don't um, press the like button. I don't know that it increases the pressing or not, but it sure is fun, isn't it? Anyway, did you guys hear the big news today? Can anybody tell me the big thing that happened in the public, in the government health sector today? If you can tell me, you'll win nothing, but you'll have my endless admiration for being so on top of the news. And I mean today, like at 5:30. Anyone? Ferris? Bueller? No one? Rochelle Walensky resigned. The director of the CDC resigned. Like today, not effective in a month or we'll give you some time. No, gone. And didn't really give much reason except for, well, now that the pandemic's over, I think it's time for me to move on. And I'm like, believe me, it was time for you to move on a long time ago. You have so overstayed your welcome. Um, yeah, oh wow, for sure. And so I was like, what there's little fanfare. They announced this on a Friday at 5:30, and they only do that when they want it to go under the radar. That's why none of you knew, because they do it at Friday at 5:30, so it misses the news cycle. And then every article, if you look up Rochelle Walensky retires, you'll see CNN, like if you're looking on the articles on the internet for the links, CNN, Rochelle Walensky retires, ABC, Rochelle Walensky retires, blah, blah, blah. They're exactly the same article. This is how you know mainstream media is just putting out whatever the government sends them. Otherwise, this would be plagiarism. Somebody had the original article and everyone copied it word for word. But that is what the news is now. And that happens all the time. What is she hiding? Well, let me tell you. I went digging because I've been kind of on a tear about this Crowder thing, and I needed something to dig my teeth into, or I was gonna choke someone. So let me find this exact one. Hold on, let me get my glasses. Oh wait, there was something else I wanted to tell you guys about. Hate to tell all my stories at the front end. Um, ah, I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget. Oh, I know what it was. So I was watching P Dog. He's got a little podcast on Rumble that I really enjoy. And hi Debbie, and he was complaining that he'd had COVID a long time ago and gotten over it, but never gotten his entire sense of taste back. And then a couple other people in that in the chat chimed in. Hi Laura, chimed in, and I didn't realize people were still having problems with this because my whole group, we got resolved right away. Well, what that is, if you're still having trouble smelling or you're having trouble tasting things, like you've not gotten it all the way back, some viruses like nerves. And the way that we know that this SARS-CoV-2 likes nerves is because it affected the olfactory nerve, the nerve that controls your smell, and it affected taste. And like polio, polio is an enterovirus that affects nerves. It has an affinity for nerves. And so when I figured that out, I'm like, okay, these people have a post-viral vagal neuropathy. And that just means you've got this kind of sluggish nerve or kind of damaged nerve that is not signaling as it should. Kind of like, how diabetics will have peripheral neuropathy where their legs hurt. Hi, there's Ashley. Ashley, I was worried about you. It's like that, but in the nerves, in your head. So the way that we solved this for everyone was having them get cinnamon flavored mouthwash, because your vagus nerve, and if you've been with me any length of time, you know what I'm going to say next. Your vagus nerve runs from brainstem to butthole. The word vagus means wandering. So this is a nerve that goes brainstem to butthole, and it has nerve branches off it that innervate every organ system in your body. So the reason I knew that people were suffering not long COVID, but post-viral vagal neuropathy, which, some people were having like chest symptoms, some people were having gut symptoms, brain fog. The reason I knew that that's what it was because it was every organ system. And there's only one thing that connects every organ system, and that is the vagus nerve. And so when I figured that out, I was like, okay, well, we can fix this. So your vagus nerve runs back behind your throat and down through here, right? And if you gargle with cinnamon mouthwash, what I would have people do is buy it and make sure you put keep your eyes closed, because if it pops up into your eyes, it burns. And I would have them gargle 10 seconds, rest, 10 seconds, rest, 10 seconds, rest, hard, like they were trying to gargle their toes out of their mouth. And they would do that 3 times a day. I don't think it took anybody longer than 4 days to get their taste and smell all the way back. So I have none of my, I think we're at 1,742 people that I know of that I personally helped. I don't know how many people downloaded the protocol outside of that. None of my folks are all fine. They're not long COVIDing. They're not doing that because I knew what to do. And if that doesn't work, then we can always try alpha lipoic acid, because it helps regrow nerve and remyelinate nerve. So anyway, he was talking about that, and I wanted to say how you treat it, because there were people that were struggling still, and I was just shocked by that. Ashley says, I know I still have to get back to you. Been busy, started a new job, got a nail in my tire, and your 7-year-old has pneumonia. Oh my goodness. That's terrible. Bless his little heart. We'll give him a hug from Nurse Penny. I have pictures of her kids, so I really feel that. AJ says, COVID affected me spiritually more than anything. Took me a while to, yes. If you guys watched my video that I posted about my story, I talk about how I had suicidal thoughts while I had COVID. I assumed just because I had been so sick for so long, but I do think it does affect some people like that. It makes sense, because if it throws off your cortisol levels, then you're going to have issues with brain chemistry. Kim says, I had COVID a year ago, December. I used to love Pepsi, but since I had COVID, Pepsi tastes like gas and pasta smells like dirt. I do still occasionally smell cigarette smoke in the house. And we built this house. No one's ever smoked in it. And it'll be like in the evening for like an hour and a half, and then it goes away. So try that, Kim. Try the mouthwash trick and let me know if that helps. Now, things tasting weird, it took me 2 years to be able to drink coffee again. But I didn't ever do the intervention, because I was like, well, I don't have lost taste. I just have altered taste, but I probably should have tried it. You guys, I love that you all talk to each other. It blesses my soul. Bloggerty Shmoo says that will explain all those trouser suits becoming popular again. Those people have no sense of taste. Oh, goodness. I don't know why that got me, but it did. Okay. Sorry. She got me. Is it a DIY? I cannot find it in the store. People were buying it off Amazon. And I guess because I was talking about it, it was getting really hard to find. We had a supplement we were using, a glutathione supplement that and I know it was us. I know it was us because it's the only one on the market that I know of that you can nebulize. And it was consistently out of stock as soon as probably within 2 months of when I started talking about it. And I was having to get with the company and say, hey, we're the ones recommending this. How long? We're going to need quite a bit more. So look, if you can't find it in your store, look on Amazon. If you can't, and I know I hate that, but this is for your health. And if that doesn't work, I would just get some an essential oil or a flavor oil that is cinnamon flavored, and then just mix it in water. You don't need it too hot. But try that, and then let me know. I know doTERRA essential oils, DOTERRA, their cinnamon is edible. And you're not going to need a bunch. You have to keep stirring it, because when you put oil in water, it separates, or put it in a water bottle and just shake the heck out of it while you're doing it. But let me know how it works, because if it doesn't, there's other things we can try. But that's always the first one. And I think I've only had one person I've had to try something else with. It was a good one. I thought so too. I thought that was very funny. Ashley says, I feel that too. I can't quite see that. Parosmia hit me too for about a year. You're not alone. It was gradual restoration for me. Yeah, you had taste. You just couldn't. Things still tasted odd. I mean, I know you'd lost your sense of taste initially, and smell too. I don't think you could smell either, could you? I've had so many people; it's hard to keep track. Did I misunderstand? No, you didn't misunderstand. I don't think. I thought you were talking about Rochelle Walensky in pantsuits. Either way, no matter what you meant, we took it as funny. Cece says, perfect, thank you. My mom lost her smell and taste. I would look for it. I've got to fix this camera, you guys. This is crazy. There, just a little. Okay, there we go. Okay, yeah, no, we totally got what you were saying then. So she's resigning. And so I wanted to show you, because my pictures didn't go through. So frustrating. Now, I don't know if this will be backwards for you guys. I want to open that. But so, you know me, I had to get on and research because I'm a nerd, totally. And I knew she was the director of the CDC. At least I thought that she was the director of the CDC. I did not know that she was also the administrator of the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry. And I just thought it was interesting that a person that is the administrator of the Agency for Toxic Substances was also crucial in these vaccines, and also that she never showed up in East Palestine, Ohio. Because if she's the administrator of the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, I would just think that falls into her court. And I might be wrong, but I'm not, because I looked it up and that is actually her job. The interesting thing I found was a court filing that I was not expecting. And I think this one did come up. This you guys are going to just fall right over. Now, I've not had a chance to verify this. I always try to verify things with 3 sources, at least 2. So this article is by Dr. McCullough, and let me share my screen here. Right there. No, don't remove it. Add it. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, for the love of all that's good and holy. There we go. Okay, CDC Director Rochelle Walensky resigns. I almost said dies. Oh my gosh, Penny. I'm so off from the nap. The AP is reporting that Director Rochelle Walensky just resigned from her office as CDC Director. Okay, what time did this come out? Oh, McCullough didn't put a time on it. For many readers of this Substack, Walensky is perhaps best remembered for her August 5th, 2021 admission that the so-called COVID-19 vaccines do not prevent infection or transmission of SARS-CoV-2. Given that the RNA virus initially replicates in the nose, it was already evident to many when the new shots were rolled out that these products designed to induce, this is what they were designed for. Hi, Holden McGroin, designed to induce the production of antibodies in the blood. That is, they kept telling you, oh, because these people had an antibody response, it was effective, meaning we gave it and they got an antibody response. They didn't actually check to make sure that that antibody response protected them against the disease, because there's a host of other things besides antibodies that go into doing that. So would not prevent infection and transmission. This is because antibodies in the blood have limited interaction with the pathogen that's replicating in your nose. Holden McGroin, I just love that you're here. I feel famous just, because Dan Bongino is in love with you and your brother Patton, and I can't remember. There was another one that was in the chat today. Holden McGroin, Patton McGroin. If you guys don't know, Dan Bongino does a podcast on Rumble, and one day I was in there chatting, and Holden McGroin was in there, and Dan Bongino noticed it, and he's talked about it every day since. That he just thought that was so funny. And so anyway, now Holden McGroin is also part of our podcast, and I'm honored to have you. For some reason, it seems the CDC was slow to recognize this. After Walensky entered office in early 2021, she assured the public that the new vaccines did indeed prevent infection and transmission. I don't even know where they would get that idea, because all you had to do was read the research. I mean, I knew this before it even came out. I was telling people, this isn't going to work. Debbie Bender, can you attest? Hi, Debbie Adams. Can you attest? It I was like, "You guys, this is not gonna work. It's not gonna prevent illness. I'm very worried about side effects," and I was looking at the data, and the data was total crap. Um, and there was so much data left out. There's a whole bunch of them now. Yeah, there is a whole bunch. Oh my gosh, I can't see the thing. Apparently, that is not gonna be a good screen arrangement for me. Um, so anyway, he goes on through here. Walensky's resignation comes just 3 weeks after an intriguing petition was submitted. This is it, guys. Listen close. After an intriguing petition was submitted to the U.S. Attorney's Office in the District of Columbia, pointing out that she did not, as required by 5 U.S. Code 3332, adhere to the following requirement. An officer within 30 days after the effective date of his appointment shall file with the oath of office required by section 3331 of this title an affidavit that neither he nor anyone acting in his behalf has given, transferred, promised, or paid any consideration for or in the expectation or hope of receiving assistance in securing the appointment. Considering all the bribery and BS that's going on in Washington, would it surprise you at all that that had happened? It wouldn't surprise me. But either way, she was never sworn in, and it gets better. Patty, oh, there she is. Hi, Patty. Hold on. I'm honored. Thanks for inviting me. I got to figure something out. We can't keep ducking. Okay, so then I found this. Oh, it makes me so mad. Not that. Nope. Oh, shoot, it didn't go through. Okay. So then I find this other thing. I hate that my pictures didn't go through. So I find this other thing, and it's showing that she wasn't even the director of the CDC, that she was listed as, and I need to check this, so don't, I'll look into this more, but just what I saw today, that she is actually listed as, she's listed as, well, my whole show's just falling apart on me. Anyway, she's listed as like the assistant supervisor or something like that. It doesn't say director, or advisor, senior advisor. That's what it is, senior advisor. I'm like, okay, well, are you the director? Are you the senior advisor? Are those the same things? Really interesting that she's now leaving office now that all these lawsuits are coming up and all these hearings in Congress. And I have this friend, Tracy Beans, who does the Uncovered DC podcast. And, she goes through all of that kind of legal stuff. Well, a lot of these people are leaving office. And then when a court submits a subpoena to have them come and testify, the government is sending back a letter saying that person is no longer in their position in the government. So you'll have to talk to whoever is here now, which is generally how it works. But the guy that's there now has no idea what that other person did, and they need that other person in there because we're talking about crimes. We're not talking about just come and give us data from whatever you've got. Anybody can bring data. They have questions specific to her role, which that person will not be able to answer. But this is how they're trying to get around it. And so I just kind of had all of that fall together in my brain when I saw that she had suddenly left on a Friday at 5:30 in the dang afternoon. These people, they don't even have enough integrity to come up and admit what they did. I'm like, it's bad enough you did all these things. Like, at least come forward, throw somebody bigger under the bus and pretend you didn't, well, I mean, I was just doing what I was supposed to do. That would at least be something. We could get to the bottom of it. Yeah, I think she was the cleaner too. Bloggerty Shmoo says this. I think that was it. I think she was the one that had a face that the public would relate to and seem like a normal person. And she would come out and, if you didn't like Fauci, it's kind of hard not to like Rochelle Walensky because she is really likable. But I just think, you guys, I'm telling you, mark it down. Whoever marks these down for me, I don't know who's been elected secretary among you, but On 5/5/2023 at 9:10 p.m., Penny said this CDC thing is going to blow up. So I'm interested to see what happens. My son-in-law, Janik says, still doesn't have his full taste back from this crap. Try that trick, and if it doesn't work, you let me know. They never have the answers. They filibuster all the time. Well, filibustering is when you want to get a bill passed. I mean, these are hearings. Now, yes, when they get there, they always say, well, I don't have that information in front of me, or that's an ongoing investigation and we don't comment. The way that you keep Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and everybody out of trouble is when they call you in to be deposed, you just say, well, that's an ongoing investigation and I can't say anything. But you're not really investigating anything. It's just an ongoing investigation because it's not been closed. So they leave it open, knowing everything that happened. Because then when they get called in, they can say, I can't comment on an ongoing investigation. It's maddening. Janik says, what, I missed it. Cinnamon mouthwash. So if you're having trouble with taste or smell, cinnamon mouthwash, you may be able to find it like at a more local store. Your pharmacist might be able to get it for you if you can't find it. Or Amazon did have it. They kind of ran out during COVID. And you take it and you gargle hard, like you're trying to gargle your toes out of your mouth. Just not so hard that you throw up, just a little less than that. It's got to be hard. And it triggers the vagal nerve in the back of the throat, which will help reset the taste and the smell. And so you gargle for 10 seconds. Yeah, check Dollar Tree. Gargle for 10 seconds, spit it out, wait, get your breath back. 10 seconds, same thing, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 3 times a day. And for most now these are long-standing cases, so we'll see how they do. But in all of my other folks, within 4 or 5 days, everything was back to normal. It's also that when they waste the time is it really? I didn't know that. That's good information. I knew it was wasting time, but I'd only heard of filibusters when they're, trying to block a vote on something. So filibuster isn't really probably even a word. It's just a fancy way of saying wasting time. That makes sense. Look at you guys. We're learning so much together. Okay. What else did I have? I'm getting right into it here. I don't think we'll go 2 hours tonight. I am just whooped. I don't know what my problem is. Okay. This one. Oh my gosh. PJ says, sis, still no smell, but I can't get her to do the cold showers or rinse. Get her just to do the mouthwash. The cold showers, she won't do the rinse. The cold showers, when people were having like severe fatigue that was just debilitating, I would have them take a basin and put it in their tub with water that had been in the fridge overnight. And then you have to bend down. It's called a dive reflex. And when you trigger it, it causes your body to release acetylcholine, which brings down inflammation. So we have them put the basin down in the tub and then pour, 2 water bottles full of cold water that's been in there all night. Put your head down and then splash it on your face, or even just put your face in the bucket. And then, you stand up slowly so you don't get dizzy, of course. But that really helped people with the fatigue, and it helped some people even with the racing heart. So it's just that vagal nerve. You've got to, it's funny because post-viral vagal neuropathy has been recognized in other countries for years. And here we just call it fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome. I watched too much of that. Oh my gosh. Holden McGroin, me and you both, brother. Okay. This one, let me come over here and share this with you. 2-minute time limits on the most important topics really grinds my gears. It does me too. Like, I like Laura Ingraham, but of course I'm off of Fox now because of everything they've done. But she rushes all of her guests. And I always think, why don't you just have less guests? Like, she doesn't even give them time to say thank you. Thanks for having me on. She just cuts them off. I think it's very bad form. And I think if people are willing to come and contribute content to your show, then they should get at least that. But, what do I know? I'm not famous. My brother thinks I'm famous, but he's wrong. Cute that he thinks I'm famous. He tells everybody that. When he introduces me to people, he's like, hey, this is my loving sister, Penny. She's famous. Like, John, I'm not famous, buddy. I saw you on the TV. Like, I know you did. And don't think I'm making fun of him by imitating his voice, because I do that of my parents and my husband. Usually when I'm doing it of my husband, he's being grouchy or something, and I'll be or he's mansplaining something to me. He's a terrible mansplainer. One time he told me, I was closing up from painting, and I was painting in this paint tent outside, and I turned the lights off and was gathering everything up, and I saw something on the side of the dresser I was painting, and I'm like, ah, shoot. And so I'm kind of scraping at it to see what it was. And he walks in and he actually says these words to me. You know, if you turn the light on, you'd be able to see that better. I thought I was going to choke him. I'm like, what? Really? Oh my, I would have never. Hold him a groin. Okay, so if you suffer from neuropathy, let me get you the link for this. Now, if you take thyroid medicine, you want to take this at the opposite time of day. So, and always check with your pharmacist. If you take thyroid medicine in the morning, you want to take this one at night. It is Amazon. And I'll show it. It's easier for me to show it than to reduced alpha. There it is. That's going to come up. Oh, good, you can see it. It is, and the reason you want this is reduced with sodium, and the reason you want that is because it is absorbed, and you can take about half the dose than if you take the other that isn't reduced, broken down, basically. Open it up, Amazon. You're killing me, Smalls. What the? You're gonna let me pull that up because I took a nap. I'll never nap again. I really needed it though, you guys. This has been a rough week. I've been crazy busy. Why? I don't understand. Okay, here, we'll try this. No, it's not going to let me do that either. Okay, so it's called, there it is. Come on, baby. Oh, this is ridiculous. Oh, and while we're on COVID, I'm going to read something to you. I'll show you a picture of it on here. Oh, you know what? No, I can't pull it up, so I can't even put the link in the thing. Anyway, this is what I'm taking for the nerve damage from my shoulder surgery, and it's made a huge difference. Huge, as Donald would say. Here we go. Reduced alpha. There it is. And okay, Amazon hates me. I'm beginning to feel the same about them. Your orders. Jeez. Hi, bae. I'm so sorry, you guys. I am usually over-prepared. No, okay, Amazon is just broke. I don't know what it... Anyway, it's called Reduced Alpha Lipoic Acid. It looks like the brand is True, True. Why will you not pull this up? There it is. Okay, let me get the link for you. And you just need 600 once a day. And I will caution you that, close that. I will caution you that it will make your pee smell weird. And that's normal, and it's not a adverse event or adverse effect or anything like that. It's just, it's got I think it causes like a sulfury smell. It smells like skunk is what it smells like, but it's gone. Like, so if you take it before you go to bed, you have that first morning pee, and after that, it's gone. You won't smell it the rest of the day. Paste. All right, there's the link. Let me see if I missed anything. Vegas is a long way to go just to gargle, but if I'm honest, why would you have to go to Vegas? Sonia says, that's so sweet of your brother. He's He loves everybody and he knows everybody. Some guy was walking. So John lived with us for a while during the lockdowns, because of how they were doing him. And this guy walks by the other day, and I see him walking all the time, but I've never talked to him. I'm usually busy when he walks, a certain time every day. And I was out on the front porch putting out my spring decorations, and he's like, "Hey, how's your brother John doing?" And I'm like, "Is there anybody he doesn't know?" And I'm like, "You know my brother?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah. Did he ever find him a girlfriend?" And I said, "Yeah, actually he did." But it was just very sweet that he knew John. He's like, "Yeah, he's a good guy." And I think growing up, I was always really self-conscious for him that he might say something that is the link, yep. Um, that he would say something that would be embarrassing to him, and then at some point I realized he doesn't care. He's not embarrassed. You're worried he's gonna say something that's gonna embarrass you. And of course, I would, as a kid, "Oh, I'm from Arizona. I'm from, uh I'm from Michigan, but I live in Kentucky." I got this testimonial. I wanted to read it to you guys. I'd asked her if I could read it, and she said it was okay as long as I didn't share her name. She says, "Penny, it's an honor to be able to thank you for teaching me how to use a nebulizer. I'm talking about when you were on Zach's show, Red Pill 78, if you haven't seen it, um, back in January of 2022. I already had a nebulizer because of an interview that CanCon, Brian Lupa, did with another doctor much earlier. I don't remember exactly when. What this guy mainly spoke about were the tests and how phony they were and why he believed that, but he spoke briefly about treating his patients with nebulizer treatments. So I bought one and put it away. Never mind that I didn't have a clue how to use it. In January of 2022, a family member finally caught the bug and didn't tell anyone for 3 days, and her oxygen level was already sub 90 and falling. When I got that phone call, I had already sat down to watch the recording of Zach's interview with you, and I had paused it. Up to that point, you guys were talking about motorcycles and sidecars. When I hung up and unpaused, you started talking about nebulizers, which ones to buy, how to take it apart and clean it, and put it back together, and what to use in it, and so on. Penny, no one will ever convince me that this was not divine intervention. The timing of it was all too perfect. This person was incredibly sick for a good 3 weeks and then tired for a while after that, but she made it through. I do not think she would have survived without the nebulizer treatments. I really don't. Isn't that cool? You guys, as awesome as that is that she sent that to me, you realize that that's for you guys too. Every person who supports the show helped make that happen. I just it tickles me to death. I think to myself, who am I that God would use me in such a way? I just it blows me away, to be able to make such a difference in people's lives. And I couldn't have done it but for everybody's financial support, and people were incredible. I mean, you guys sent me thousands of dollars. I bought nebulizers. If you lived within 2 hours of my house and you got sick, I was driving a nebulizer to your house. Um, there all kinds of things. I made care packages and sent them out. It was crazy. It was such a group effort. So, don't ever feel like you're not making a difference. You don't have to support my channel, but if you've got somebody on New Tech Media who you love, support them because it's not cheap to do this. We pay every month to bring you information. So support us if you can. If you can't support us financially, support us in prayer. I have people that just send $5 a month, and that helps. That's $5 a month that can go towards the broadcasting fee or whatever. So don't feel like, oh, well, that's not going to help. If I've got 1,500 subscribers, if they all sent $1 a month, it would make a huge difference. So that's not to beg money. That's just to show you what good you've done by supporting this. It's just, I'm just over the moon about it. Um, my spelling is horrible. Oh my gosh. Did you take a nap before you got here? Because I took a nap and I'm a hot mess. Um, what a blessing. Thank you for sharing the testimonial. Heartwarming. Yes. PJ says, I still use mine and I gave away 3 regarding COVID because of you. That's awesome. There was a new nurse who watched you during COVID and saved. Really, Janik? Will you put me in contact with her? That would be so cool. I so want to meet these people who, who there are nurses. I think, Debbie, didn't you tell me that you've got a friend that, a nurse friend that was in South America? I think it was Debbie, um, who got hold of my protocol and was using it in South America for people there in her nursing work. What the heck? I mean, look at how God took. I think we maybe pulled in 5K during COVID, like when things were really bad. And we just kept putting it back out and putting it into the podcast. And I mean, we didn't keep any of it. And look how many lives were saved with just that little bit of money over a year. It just was crazy. It was crazy. It was awesome. I'm just still so tickled about it. What does that say? It was a phone nurse. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Don't even fret about it. Nope, I don't want to show you that one. This is the one. Okay, check this out, you all. And just so you know, I'm not judging. I don't walk in your shoes. I don't live your life. But I think we could probably all agree. Hold on. Stop. Nope, we're on the right page. This is a very bad arrangement. Oh, it is up there. Okay. I'm just blind. I took a nap. My only excuse. How do I donate? If you go into the, well, you can do it in the Rumble Rant section. You can just hit a $sign and do it here. But if you don't want them to have your information, if you go into the description under the video, my PayPal is there, my Venmo, Cash App, and you can donate any of those 3 ways. And thank you for that. And then I remembered, thank you, Debbie Bender. I remembered to put my email address and my website address in that start video, which you won't see again because we've already started, but it's also in the comment section. So this came out. I feel like there is no end to the level of wicked. What are you doing? Come on now. There we go. Okay, so this is called employer-funded post-abortion health care violates religious liberty. And there's one part in particular I want to share with you. This is by State Rep Joseph Fox of Fremont. So it would establish workplace for protections for employees who have abortions, to include it's an anti-discrimination law to include termination of pregnancy among the list of reasons why an employer could not discriminate against an employee. Are there employers that are discriminating against someone based on them having an abortion? I don't think there, I mean, maybe there are, I don't know. Ashley says, one thing I'm wondering is how to treat people who have limited kidney function, has only one functioning kidney and only at 32%, not how to treat her for COVID the same way. Yeah, the same way. Trying to think if there's anything in there. I would check with her pharmacist to make sure there's not anything in the protocol that would interact. Debbie says, not me, but lots of my friends and family used it. But yeah, I mean, the nebulizer shouldn't be a problem at all if that were the only thing she could do. If I could only give you one thing, well, I would give you 2 things. If I could only give you one, I'd give you the vitamin D3 and the nebulizer treatments. The nebulizer treatments were an absolute game changer. And all we did was put 5 milliliters of saline in there. If you go to my website, there's a free download of the protocol. It's huge. You don't need all that now that we're into Omicron. But if you just use the nebulizer, and there's a recipe for how to make saline in there, or you can buy saline, just little vials of it from Amazon. But you just put it in there. You put a drop of peroxide in and 2 drops of Lugol's iodine. And you want to make sure the Lugol's iodine that you're buying is not coming from China. And you can do that up to 4 times a day. Even just start with 1 drop. And Ashley, with your little one having pneumonia, that would be the first thing I would do. Okay. At present, bosses cannot treat their workers differently based on their being pregnant or having children. Okay. Notably, the bill would force employers to provide the same health care benefits for women who have babies and women who have abortions. For example, just as women use maternity, it should say, to spend time with their newborns, so too would women who have abortions have the right to paid time off. I am hoping they don't mean maternity leave. I mean, you're going to get 6 weeks of leave for an abortion? What if you decide to have 2 abortions in a year? Can you just keep taking maternity leave for that? Um, oh, Holden, I feel you. I always have to wait on my Social Security too, where I'm disabled from my spinal injury. Um, so yeah, so further, whatever benefits a pregnant woman may receive during and after childbirth would also be given to women post-abortion. I mean, so like what if you are early on in your pregnancy and you use the pharmaceutical option for abortion? Do you then get 6 weeks paid off work? And how could you prove that this, like, are they going to require women to prove they've had an abortion? Like, you have to be written off by your doctor to be able to get your maternity leave. Um, do you really think they're going to say, okay, well, you'll have to bring us a note from your, maybe they will. I don't know. I just was blown away by this. I can't believe that companies aren't kicking back on it. Um, I mean, if you're going to have an abortion, that's your business, but 6 weeks off work, I don't think so. Kim Schenkel says, my husband got COVID. Hold on, I'm trying to pop that comment up. My husband got COVID when I did. Thank God we both lived. My husband has more issues than most due to severe strokes. Can't sit. Kim, I think we talked to each other, didn't we? I know I had a case like this. Can't sit, stand, trach, GJ tube on a lot of different medicines, on oxygen 24/7, vent at night. I feel like you and I have talked. Because wasn't he already on inhaled acetylcholine or N-acetylcysteine? Acetylcholine. I, yeah, that seems right to me. Watch. Yes, all right. I remembered one. When you get to what I say, we're at 1,742 cases. I just kind of glaze over. There's so many. Then, okay, so that's bad enough. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that someone who has an abortion, and considering that most abortions happen in the first trimester, do you think that a person who has an abortion should be able to get the same maternity leave as a woman who has a baby? And then here's the next question. If that woman gets maternity leave after an abortion, can her husband then take paternity leave? Like, maternity leave suggests that you have a living child. I just think that's crazy. Can you imagine having to fill in for that person that's having an abortion and taking 6 weeks of maternity leave? I mean, it, most people who get a minor like outpatient surgery don't get 6 weeks off. Thank you for asking people to hit the. I've got moderators in here. I have free moderators. I love it. Who is this one? Oh, this is Miss Debbie. Hold on. Miss Bender. Depends if the abortion was for something life-threatening. Well, then she'd already have, she wouldn't get maternity leave. She would get leave. She'd get medical leave based on that physical condition. But that's the very small minority of abortions. But I mean, even so, if she had an abortion and had a life-threatening outcome from it, sure, absolutely. But that would be medical leave, not maternity leave. Debbie says, you saved John's and my life. And absolutely, Debbie and John left the hospital AMA and went home and did the protocol. And also reached my sister Ainsley and her family, my cousin Lynn and her husband and son, John's brothers and their wives and others. And I wrote out your and Dr. Z's protocol. That is awesome. You guys, I bet I would not be overstating it by saying the number of people who downloaded and used that protocol is way over 1,742. I'd bet money on it. Anyway, I feel like we just keep incentivizing. I mean, do you really think if somebody has an abortion and they need to be off work for 3 or 4 days and they can take 6 weeks paid, that they're not going to take it? You get 6 weeks paid off work. I'm sure there will be honest people who don't. But I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much. Do you suppose they are piggybacking that on when a woman has a miscarriage? No. And a miscarriage doesn't give you maternity leave either. You would just get medical leave. And the thing with most medical leave, short-term medical leave, you generally have to be out 2 weeks before you can even qualify for it. So if you have your gallbladder out and you only have to take 6 or 7 days off work, you just have to use your vacation or your sick time, because that short-term disability doesn't kick in for 2 weeks. So, if you had a miscarriage, you're going to be back to work generally in a day or two. Glad to see you around. Thank you so much, Wayne Rash. I've got to get this. This is driving me crazy. Let me pull this over here. I can't keep ducking around my screen. I look like a lunatic. People are like, what is she dodging? Oh, that's much better. I didn't realize I could move it over here. Of course, it's going to go away every time I change my screen. Let's do that. Okay. I'll get it. I need a third screen. It's ridiculous. I can't believe it's gotten to the point that I need a third screen. Okay. Janik says, my spelling is way off today. One of those days. Yeah, you probably took a nap. I'm telling you, it's wrecked me. Okay, here's the other one. So you guys, we were talking about, we've been talking about the neurological aspect of taking puberty blockers, and I wanted to talk to you guys about this hearing that went on this week. So there was a hearing, and I don't know where this was. It was before a legislature somewhere. I don't know if it was federal or state or what, because I didn't catch that part. But I listened to the two moms that were testifying. And so the one mom said that she knew, you guys, I'm not exaggerating this or adding or taking away. It's this crazy. She said that she knew that her daughter was a boy from the time she was very little, because she always wanted to eat green vegetables. And so her brain knew that she was a boy, and her body was trying to bring her body was seeking things to bring her body in alignment with her brain. And the reason that she was craving the green vegetables was because they increased testosterone production. I'm like, so your toddler likes vegetables, and that now means she's a boy, and that her body intuitively knows to eat more vegetables to increase her testosterone? I don't know. Could it just be that she likes green vegetables? That was actual testimony. Then the other lady said that she bought her 2-year-old daughter one of those like Fisher Price tool bench things, where you can hammer the stuff in and everything. And when she did it, she said, I hope it doesn't turn her into a boy. But she was so glad that she had said that out loud, because she must have known intuitively at some level that her daughter was a boy. This is what started her journey to transitioning this child socially. So she had been transitioning this child socially just because she played with a tool bench from the time she was 2. The child is now 13. And this woman, I wish I could find her testimony. This woman is like giddy talking about it. She's like, and here's a picture of them. And I'm not overselling this. Aren't they so cute? And the guy's like trying to ask questions. And she's like, I just knew it. I just knew when I bought that tool bench. And I said that out loud. I was like she'd had this prophetic moment about her child's gender. This is how crazy these people are, right? So everybody's like, oh, this child knew from very young. Did they know from very young, or did you start grooming them into it when they were very young? And it might be that it might not be intentional. It might be because of everything they're hearing. Some people are very sympathetic to the movement, and they're very keyed in on these little things. And when they see this little thing, they want to be part of that group. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because of Munchausen by proxy, which is now called fictitious disorder inflicted on another. And we're going to look at that. Let me close these. There we go. Fictitious disorder imposed on another. What the hell is wrong with people? Indeed, Janik, what is wrong with them? Previously known as Munchausen by proxy. When someone has this mental illness, they might act as though their child or dependent has a medical condition that needs attention. However, the child or dependent person isn't sick. People with fictitious disorder imposed on another, FDIA, lie about an illness in another person. This other person is usually someone in their care, often a child under the age of 6. In some cases, the dependent person can be an adult, disabled person, or elderly person. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Previously called Munchausen, they're considered a mental illness because they're associated with severe emotional difficulties. Whether the false medical claims are about someone else or yourself, this condition can be dangerous. It can lead to unnecessary medical tests and even procedures while the healthcare team tries to figure out what's wrong with the patient. When a child is involved, FDIA is considered a form of child abuse by the American Professional Society on the Abuse of Children. What is the motivation? There may be many different reasons why someone with FDIA might seek unnecessary medical treatment for a child or dependent. Often, they have an inner need for their child or other dependent person to be seen as ill or injured. This isn't done to achieve a concrete benefit like financial gain. It's often done in order to gain sympathy and special attention given to people who are truly ill and their families. Who is most likely to have it? It's mostly seen in mothers. How many times have you guys seen on the news where the father's like, "This child is fine when he is with me. Somehow, only when he's with his mother does he want to wear a dress." I've heard it over and over, and dads fighting. I mean, fighting with every dime they have to get their kid away from this mother because the kid is fine. And they've got teachers that are like, "Nope, when they're here, they're fine. I haven't seen it." But a lot of these moms will even pull the teacher into this. It can also happen with fathers, but very rarely. I've not seen it actually, who intentionally harm or describe non existent symptoms in their children to get the attention given to the family of someone who is sick. They may use many hospitalizations or medical visits as a way to earn praise from others for their devotion to the child's care. Child's care. Everyone at this meeting is like, oh, yeah, bravo, bravo. Thank you for affirming your child. And I'm like, you're a lunatic. That's what your problem is. You're a lunatic. Now, are there kids that are young and say they're a boy? Absolutely. Are there kids that are young that say they want to be a boy? I've shared my stories with you about this. Um, there are certain characteristics. Being a parent, usually a mother, sometimes being a healthcare professional or having medical knowledge. It's all over the news, guys. Um, They think they have medical knowledge because they have access to medical information. That doesn't mean that you understand it. Um, Being very friendly and cooperative with healthcare providers. She acted like these people knew her kids and would be thrilled to see pictures. Like she didn't have the formality that you would expect of somebody who is giving sworn testimony. I don't know if it was sworn, but giving testimony um, before a governmental group, appearing to be quite concerned. Some might seem overly concerned about their child, possibly also suffering from fictitious disorder imposed on self. It's a related disorder in which the caregiver repeatedly acts as if he or she has a physical or mental illness when he or she has caused the symptoms. Is this all sounding very familiar? Let's Get Sewing says, oh no, I read that one. What has happened to people? There are so many people. Okay, Kim, if you want to know what's happened to people, come to the Tuesday morning book club at 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. on 10 a.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, because we are covering Jonathan Cahn's book, Return of the Gods, and it explains exactly what's wrong with people. Let me take that down. Janet's tore up. Here we go. What the hell is wrong with people? Who gives a crap if girls play with boys things or boys play with girl things? PJ says this whole trans thing would be nil if not for the ability to post their kids on social media. Exactly. Parents need to simply add to cart for the serotonin hit. Oh, well said. Well said. Gosh, I want to copy that. Janet, it's like if you're told you're no one every day, you start to believe it. It's the same thing for these kids. Exactly. Holden McGroin, we need to fight for these kids. Why should kids be different? If told you're a boy when you're a girl constantly, you're right. You're right. It's so obvious. Hold on, my screen's acting weird. There we go. Okay, so let's slide down this page a little bit. I'm talking so fast. I'm sorry. Let me slow down here. We don't have any numbers really. Was it called Munchausen? Yes. They don't know the cause. Researchers believe both biological and psychological factors play a role in the development of the disorder. Some theories suggest that a history of abuse or neglect as a child or the early loss of a parent might be factors. Some evidence suggests major stress, such as marital problems. You ever see the dad at any of these hearings? No, you do not. Dang it, I thought I clicked that off, Kim. I'm sorry, honey. There we go. All right, let's go down this page a little bit if I can get my cursor over. An adult with FDIA, so it's the adult that has it, it's not the child. The adult is inflicting suffering on the child, and the adult is the one with the mental illness. An adult with FDIA often will not leave the bedside of their child or person they're caring for. They'll also discuss in detail the symptoms and care that's been provided. This is typically used, and she did exactly that in this meeting. This is typically used as evidence that he or she is a good caretaker and is doing a thorough job, not necessarily to give information about the status of the child, but just to shine a light on how wonderful they are in taking care of this child. This is typically used as evidence that he or she's a good caretaker. If the symptoms go away when the patient is in the hospital, they'll likely return when the caretaker with FDIA is alone with the child at home. So they go to dad's, they're fine. They're at mom's, and they're a different gender. The child or dependent person, other possible warning signs. The child or dependent person having a history of hospitalizations. Also, there will be a strange set of symptoms, like playing with the Fisher Price tool set or eating green vegetables. If you're going to say eating green vegetables is a sign that your child is trans, and the medical community is not like, what? This person's crazy. It is not a sign of that. The child or dependent person's symptoms generally being reported by the mother and not being witnessed by hospital staff. The child or dependent person's conditions and symptoms not matching the results of a diagnostic test, which there are none. The child condition improving in the hospital but recurring when they go home. Blood in labs. This is more for a person who's directly doing a physical abuse to the child. And then chemicals in the blood or stool. You're not going to see that in the trans kids, of course. How is it diagnosed? Diagnosing is very difficult because of the dishonesty that's involved. Healthcare providers must rule out any possible physical illness as the cause of the child's symptoms. How is this diagnosed? A parent takes the kid to the doctor and suggests the kid is transgender, gives a list of symptoms. If your child's old enough, maybe they're verbalizing it at that point. That's how it's diagnosed, period. They don't go in and make sure the kid's hormones are okay or nothing else is going on. They don't do an evaluation, a psych evaluation separate from the parent. They don't interview the opposite parent to see what they're seeing. They just take this person's word for it. Healthcare providers must rule out any possible physical illness as the cause of symptoms and often use a variety of tests and procedures. If a physical cause of the symptoms is not found, a thorough review of the child's medical history, as well as a review of the family history and caregiver's medical. Do you guys think this is happening? This is not happening. They don't even look at my allergies when they tell me to take an NSAID for my shoulder. And it's right in the chart that I'm allergic to them. So no, nobody's doing a big file review or chart review. If they did this, they could see, is the parent always sick with some weird thing, and there's no test that you can do to find anything. And what you'll find is that they also doctor hop. If they find a doctor that doesn't believe them, then they'll go to another doctor. And they'll oftentimes go to a new doctor and just tell the doctor that they have this diagnosis, and then the doctor will put that in the coding, and no one ever looks back to see if that person actually ever had that diagnosis. Remember, it is the adult, not the child, who's diagnosed with FDIA. The most important or helpful part of the workup is the review of all old records that can be obtained. Unfortunately, this time-consuming but critical task is often forgotten. And no, it's not forgotten. It's neglectfully not done. You don't forget to do an assessment. You don't. If you do forget to do it, you should be going back and saying, I need to assess this. But I see this all the time. Healthcare providers will ask Child Protective Services and the legal department for help reviewing the facts. One of the biggest concerns in cases of FDIA is the safety of the child. Ensuring their safety is important, and this often involves placing them in the care of someone else. This can take a team of people to accomplish. It's difficult to successfully treat people with FDIA because they often deny it because they're freaking liars. Success can be dependent on catching the person in the act or the person catching them telling the truth. However, people with FDIA tend to be such accomplished liars that they start to have trouble telling fact from fiction. So they eventually convince themselves of it. And this is why they can be so compelling in their testimony. And then you got the trained seals, ooh, 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 they're just lapping it up. Um, What are the complications? Fictitious disorder imposed on another can lead to serious short and long term complications, including continued abuse, multiple hospitalizations, death of the victim. What is happening with these kids? They're going in, they're getting on meds. We have no idea how these meds are affecting them. They're going into the hospital, they're having their breasts removed, then they're going back to the hospital and having a penis put on. You're going to the hospital and you're removing the penis and the testicles. And then you go back to the hospital and you have a vagina put in. And then you have a lifetime. So then what happens a lot of times is these kids end up doing the same thing to their kids because they end up with a psychiatric disorder they don't know they have because this has been done to them their whole life, and they just naturally roll that forward. This is considered a form of child abuse. It is a criminal offense. I cannot give you a better article that perfectly describes these people. If you watch Matt Walsh on Rumble, go to Matt. He's on YouTube too. I don't know if he's censored on there. Maybe he is. Or they commit suicide. Exactly. Go on and find Matt Walsh. He just recently did a show on these two women, and he has the video and everything. I could have gotten it, but again, I'm not going to say it. I took a nap. Okay, the next big thing. Get ready for a big Marburg scare. How long have I been saying this? I think I have been warning about Marburg since the beginning of 2022. I was like, I'm very worried the next thing that's going to be the thing is Marburg. And if it's a real thing, Marburg has I think it's better than an 80% mortality rate. I mean, this would be catastrophic. But this is Dr. McCullough here. On April 6th, 2023, the CDC issued a report, and he's on Substack, guys. You can find him on Substack. Peter A. McCullough. On April 6, 2023, the CDC issued a report to increase awareness of the risk of imported cases following Marburg virus disease outbreaks in Equatorial Guinea and Tanzania. Tanzania? It's Tanzania, right? Yeah. There has been an acceleration in the number of Marburg virus outbreaks over recent years. And I've been tracking these. I have a little map with push pins in it. I've been tracking these, and every time I find them, they're less than 150 miles away from a biolab. Coincidence, maybe. I don't know. Maybe the people who get it who aren't near a biolab just die and they don't get a test. I don't know. That, correlation doesn't mean causation. How sick are we of hearing that? This is a problem. This unprecedented outbreak of the Marburg virus in two different countries, said Paul Hunter, an epidemiologist. There's been an acceleration in the number of Marburg virus outbreaks over recent years. Now, at my last check, and I'll have to look because I'm behind on tracking it. Hi, RJ. At last check, there were 4 cases, and I think they were all dead. Yeah, I think that's right, but I'll have to go back and look. Equatorial Guinea is a perfect place for the biopharmaceutical complex to operate and do and say whatever it pleases because its government is one of the most corrupt in the world. This name, you guys, President Teodoro, I'm going to leave it at that, is surely one of the most bizarre heads of state in history. According to a BBC report in July of 2003, state-operated radio declared Teodoro the country's god, with all power over men and things. It added that the president was in permanent contact with the Almighty and can decide to kill without anyone calling him to account and without going to hell. You think it's bad here? Um, it added that the president was in an. Oh, no, I read that part. He also has a funny quirk of ending public speeches by well wishing himself instead of the nation. According to a 2010 Forbes report, the president gets the lion's share of the country's $3 billion per annum oil revenue from massive offshore deposits and had deposited approximately $700 million in U.S. banks. Like President George W. Bush's friend, Prince Bandar al-Saud, Teodoro had a special relationship with the now defunct Riggs Bank in Washington, D.C., the nation's top money laundering institution, which channeled payments to some of the September 11th hijackers. You guys, how freaking deep does it go? I feel like I I can't even get my brain around how connected all of this is. Where there is a stew of corruption in places like Ukraine, Equatorial Guinea, and Washington, D.C., you will find the biopharmaceutical complex setting up shop, but I digress. Back to Marburg. In the year 2008, I gave a reading in Marburg, Germany, during which time I became fascinated by the purported illness that appeared in persons who worked in whatever that Beringwerk lab in 1967. The lab had gained notoriety during World War II because during this time it was administered by the SS and conducted vaccine experiments on human subjects, from which many died. The conventional story is that researchers at the laboratory in 1967 were harvesting kidney cells from African green monkeys in order to develop a polio vaccine, and were infected by a hitherto unknown virus the monkeys were carrying. The same symptoms purportedly manifested in personnel who worked in labs in Frankfurt and Belgrade around the same time. These labs had purportedly taken delivery of monkeys from the same region of Uganda. Outside of these lab incidents, there have been very few documented cases of Marburg in humans. Well, that kind of brings back what I was saying about interesting that all these cases seem to be within 140 miles of a biolab. The other interesting thing is that Africa has all of these mobile biolabs that they deploy. I can't track those. I can only track the main lab, but they're just these like shipping containers that they set up as labs, and then they can take them anywhere because they're areas that are very difficult to get to. I can see where it would be important. Hi, Juboob. Hi, old saucy. So keep that in your brain. Outside of these lab incidents, there have been very few documented cases. According to the CDC, Marburg virus is rare but severe hemorrhagic fever that affects people and non-human primates. It is caused by an infection with Marburg virus or Raven virus, both within the genus Marburg virus. Marburg viruses are zoonotic or animal-borne RNA viruses within the virus family of Filoviridae. Ebola viruses, also filoviruses, are genetically distinct but closely related to Marburg virus. That's another one that'll kill you. The Egyptian russet bat is a cave-dwelling bat that is found widely across Africa and the animal reservoir for Marburg viruses. Bats infected with Marburg do not show obvious signs of illness. Given the bat's broad geographic spread, see, we have to think about that. Yes, those bats aren't here, but bats move, and we do have bats here. More areas are potentially at risk for outbreaks of Marburg than previously known. Primates, including people, can become infected with Marburg viruses and may develop serious disease with high mortality. Further study is needed to determine if other species are also susceptible to infection. Just so you know, they got a Marburg mRNA virus ready to go, you guys, or vaccine. And I'll probably get kicked off YouTube for this. I don't care. If I get kicked off YouTube, my folks that are watching on YouTube, come find me over here, okay? This will probably get taken off Facebook too. So come to Rumble and watch, because Those platforms are going to nail me. I can just about guarantee it. Marburg. Yes, okay. Marburg appears in sporadic outbreaks throughout sub-Saharan Africa. It's usually, they say that it's usually related to eating bushmeat. Many past outbreaks have started with male mine workers in bat-infested mines. The virus then spreads within their families and communities and among healthcare staff. It's possible that isolated cases occur occasionally as well, but go unrecognized. Right, because if you get sick suddenly, well, actually, I think you get sick over 21 days, but then when you get it, it's quick. They have occurred outside of Africa, but infrequently, in addition to the 1967 lab exposures. So we hadn't seen this till the lab exposures. It sounds like this is what this is saying, that led to the discovery of Marburg virus. So the only way that Marburg was in the monkey cells. Then they started screwing around with them in a lab. Do we never learn? And then people got Marburg virus, and now we see people with Marburg virus. A Dutch tourist developed MVD after returning to the Netherlands from Uganda in 2008 and later died. That same year, an American traveler developed Marburg after returning to the US from Uganda and recovered. So it's normally found in monkeys. People generally aren't around monkeys, so there's not a huge concern of this, right? It's found in bats. People generally aren't hanging out with bats. And so you should be okay. Now, bats do bite animals that live in the bush, of course, and you could eat that animal and then become sick. But this shouldn't be something we're seeing in the general population, even in Africa. Fellow Substack author Sasha Latipova believes we should regard reports of Marburg outbreaks with grave skepticism, especially if they're accompanied by proposals for developing and mass deploying a Marburg virus vaccine, such as this news report from NBC. Let me make sure we're done there. Yeah. Oh, really? I don't want to block my ads. Hold on. Let's see if we can fix that. Continue to cite. Okay. WHO hopes to test an experimental Marburg virus vaccine amid an outbreak in Equatorial Guinea. Look, to test it, which means they already have made it. The World Health Organization hopes to test an experimental Marburg vaccine in Equatorial Guinea. So all these people who should have almost no risk of getting Marburg, like when you see these outbreaks of 2 people, that's generally as far as it goes. But we're going to go ahead and, you guys, do you realize how much of Africa has resources that our greedy government wants to get their hands on? And the people of Africa are scared to death of Big Pharma and the Americans because Big Pharma has gone over there so many times and killed them with drug experiments, which announced its first outbreak of the virus Monday. That was not the first. Oh, yeah, in Guinea, it was the first virus outbreak. 9 deaths have been confirmed, while 16 suspected patients are in quarantine. Oh, so, okay, I need to update the map then. Health officials are also monitoring 15 asymptomatic close contacts. No vaccine or antiviral treatment is approved to treat Marburg virus disease, which has an average death rate of about 50%. On Tuesday, so it's only 50. Maybe Ebola is the one that's closer to 80. On Tuesday, the WHO convened an urgent meeting to evaluate several possible vaccine candidates that could be administered during the outbreak. The meeting brought together a consortium of vaccine developers, researchers, and government officials, a group the WHO created in 2021 to advance a Marburg vaccine. I'll have to look. I think Marburg, you need like direct contact with bodily fluids, but we'll look it up here in a second. Hopefully it'll say it down here. Everything that we do needs to be done with alacrity. Dr. Philip Krauss, the chair of WHO COVID vaccine research expert group, experts, said at the meeting, even if we're going to do a study over many outbreaks, the more participants in that study that could be enrolled at each outbreak, the more likely we are to reach a conclusion. Yeah, drag those poor Africans in there and start jabbing them. People can spread Marburg virus through blood, other bodily fluids, or contaminated objects or surfaces. Contaminated objects or surfaces being like sheets that are soaked with blood, or have the blood of the sick person on them, not just touching the counter or something like that. Past outbreaks, mostly in Africa, had death rates of 24 to 88%. That's where I got that number, depending on the virus strain and the strength of efforts to control transmission. So you guys see that 88% and you think, oh, well, it's Africa, and so they don't have as good of healthcare as we do. Keep in mind that Africa had very few deaths from COVID compared to the United States. Poor countries did very well because they gave drugs, as they should have. Marburg belongs to the same family of viruses as Ebola, so the disease can look similar. Both are characterized by viral hemorrhagic fever, bleeding fever, where you bleed, a condition that can cause internal bleeding and damage multiple organ systems. Marburg virus disease usually starts with fever, chills, headache, muscle aches, followed by rash and nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, sore throat, or chest or stomach pain. Ebola follows a similar progression from dry to wet symptoms. So initially just, just being nauseous and feverish, and then, these internal bleeding sort of things happen. George Ama, WHO's representative in Equatorial Guinea, said the organization has ramped up contact tracing. The outbreak's first case most likely dates to January 7th. That's actually the last one I wrote down. But the country's health ministry learned about it a month later. Deaths have been among close family members and people who attended their burials. Okay, so close family members who are sharing bodily fluids, cleaning up after the person who is sick, that sort of thing. Before this, the most recent Marburg outbreak was in Ghana in July. It resulted in 3 cases, 2 of which were fatal. Before that, Guinea reported 1 death in 2021, but the virus did not spread to any of the person's contacts, and those people lived in the home with the person. So this is not super easy to catch. So don't go freaking out on me, okay? I gotta find you guys. I dropped my chat somewhere. No, nothing is coincidence. You're right. Okay, hold on. I lost my Rumble chat. It's just one thing after another today. There you are. Okay. Oh, that's not it either. Hold on. There we go. Ivy, really? Stop. We're definitely ending early tonight. I'm sucking as a host tonight. Okay, so we got how is it spread? Yeah, exactly. Let the World Health Organization take it first. I agree. F YouTube. I just wanted to let people know that if you're watching on YouTube, you may not be able to do that much longer because I have lost patience, and I will not self-censor. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. I don't spread things that I have not researched. This is information I'm getting from the World Health Organization, the CDC, the 2 organizations that we're supposed to defer to. So YouTube can just suck it. I don't care. Making sure I'm caught up here. You're doing great. It's the technology. Yeah, I am. It is the technology. It's more difficult than I could have ever. I continue to suck at it every time I do it. It's funny. A friend of mine's like, "Oh, just research how just to self-publish a book." I'm like, "You realize I can barely run my live streams on Friday nights. There's no hope for me." Okay, let's see if we can get this going here again. Now let me drag you over to the other page, you hateful thing. There we go. Okay. Now we're moving on. We're flying tonight, guys. I had to do something. Oh, no, I don't want to do that one yet. Look away. Okay, so this is on the train derailment. And the reason I'm bringing up the train derailment was because when I was researching Rochelle Walensky, I found out, like I showed you, that she is over this, what I say, ATSDR. So if you joined late, that is the... Where'd she go? There she is. That is the administrator of the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry. So I just think it's interesting that the director of the CDC, and I don't know if this has always been the case, I'll have to research that, The director of the CDC is also the administrator of the Agency for Toxic Substances. I feel like that's a real good match. Like if she could also be the director over the um, FDA and have a job at Big Pharma, we'd have the full Monty. But I just think it's interesting that she's over the Agency for Toxic Substances, and here we have these jabs. But she's over this agency that would be the first to respond, or among the first to respond in the case of a train derailment. Um, so the CDC ATSDR launch East Palestine. This is from March, but there's a reason I'm telling you this, because she's leaving. We just had this big hearing with the Norfolk Southern train guy that was just a shit show, pardon my language. Um, and now Walensky's like, I'm out, I'm done. We've got these first class action suits getting ready to come forward on the jab. I just think people are seeing what's going to happen and they are jumping ship. I hope that's what's happening, and I hope we get them. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, an Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, are preparing for the next phase of the assessment of chemical exposure investigation to assess the health impacts of the February 3rd train derailment. This is dated March 14th. That train derailed February 3rd. They're getting ready for the second phase. So let's look at what the first phase was. Federal government to send medical experts to the site of Ohio train derailment. February 20th. 17 days afterwards. That agency that she's over is the emergency response. The emergency response should be immediate. This is 17 days later, and I guarantee you that they wouldn't have even done it then, except for the American people were so tore up about it, and because Donald Trump went down there and brought light to it, and they're like, well, crap, now we got to do something. Biden's still not been down there unless I missed it, which I could have because I don't watch mainstream stuff. But I don't think he's been there. Look at that mess, you guys. The federal government is sending medical personnel and toxicologists to conduct public health testing following the derailment of a train carrying hazardous materials that released in East Palestine. A team from the U.S. Department of HHS and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention will be on the ground in East Palestine, as well as the agency, this is that agency, Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, 17 days to support EPA and state health departments' efforts. Now, this is a little town, you guys. They did not have a response that was appropriate because it was a little town. When they didn't even evacuate everybody until the 5th. And then when they did that controlled burn, it is not a controlled burn. A controlled burn is not releasing the chemical from the tank and then setting the whole dang thing on fire. A controlled burn, you have to take the chemicals to someplace where you can control the amount of oxygen in the burn so that you get complete combustion and the heat. Ohio's Republican Governor Mike DeWine and the state's congressional delegation requested additional federal aid on Thursday to conduct public health testing and assessments. 17 days in, people were already, their lungs were burning, they were breaking out in these horrible rashes, these little ones with rashes all over them, people with lesions on their lungs, severe chemically induced pneumonias. 17 days. What the hell are we paying taxes for? It's disgusting what they've done to these poor people. And it's Trump country, so screw them, I guess. It should just make you sick to your stomach. On February 3rd, a Norfolk Southern relay train derailed in East Palestine. We did that. Leading to a release of dangerous chemicals through a controlled burn. That is totally BS. It was not a controlled burn. I mean, I guess other than that, they controlled where they set the fire and it was in a certain area. That would be a sequestered burn, I suppose, but that's different than a controlled burn. To prevent an explosion, it forced residents to evacuate the area. This was a horrific mistake, an administration official said. A trauma visited upon this community. Ohio lawmakers and EPA Administrator Michael Regan, or Reagan, have been in East Palestine to hear from residents who have complained about rashes, headaches, dead fish, and wildlife in the area since the derailment. ATSDR will also send a team to interview people in the derailment area and conduct an assessment of chemical exposure. So let me tell you what this freaking consists of. It's an online survey that these people can take, right? So they don't get down there, they don't put this thing up until February, what I say, 27th. You could only get on the registry to document what your symptoms were and how this was affecting you until March 30th. They took that questionnaire down. Yeah, February 3rd. You could only get online and report symptoms until March 30th. And what this ATSDR or whatever it is does is they collect that data and then they advise people, get this, on how to avoid such exposures in the future. And then they give them referrals, meaning they say, you should go to your doctor. That doesn't sound right. That's it. That's what they did. It's disgusting. And they have like a $740 million budget. And that was in 2016. I don't know what their current budget is. Substances Department Administration. Okay. Ohio's Republican Governor Mark DeWine had a delegation. They went down there on February 3rd. The train derailed. We know that story. This was a horrific mistake, a trauma visited. How did we get all the way back down that page? That's weird. So they tested the air quality of 500 homes under a voluntary screening process. And my understanding is this air testing they did not check for dioxins. And there is serious concern about dioxins, and dioxins are known cancer-causing agents. It's bad. It's horrible. And detected no air quality levels of concern for vinyl chloride or hydrogen chloride. They only tested for two things, even though they know that when you burn that vinyl chloride, it turns into dioxin in the air. But we're not going to test for that. 5 of the rail cars were carrying vinyl chloride, which is used to make plastics, and hydrogen chloride is a toxic chemicals. And apparently there were a bunch of other chemicals in there too. But you get only as much information as you're willing to dig for. Vinyl chloride is classified as a human carcinogen. Administration officials said the EPA will continue to monitor the air, soil, and surface water of the Ohio River and do absolutely nothing about it, and conduct volunteer screenings of residents' homes. So meaning, hey, we're going to stop by. You guys doing, you good? You good? Yeah. I know it's burning. Yeah. Was it, go ahead. Yeah, cough up the blood. It's okay. Better out than in. Absolute hell. It's like telling people if you've got a fever and a cough, wait till your lips turn blue to go to the ER. Why are these people still in charge of anything? Rochelle Walensky herself said that they needed to completely revamp the CDC because of their response. I'm like, you're in charge. Like she's writing up this big thing about how they need to do it. I'm like, you're in charge. It's your job. Do your damn job. But you know why she couldn't do her job? Because none of her people come to work. They asked her in oversight, how many of your people come to the office? She had no idea. And he's like, well, is it half? She's like, I don't know. She had no idea how many of her people didn't come to work at all and just work remotely from home. Well, no wonder they can't get crap done. They don't even come to the office. It makes me so mad, you guys, the injustice of this. And on innocent people. This should boil your blood because you know what? Your town could be next. We cannot forget East Palestine because your town can be next. They're driving all this crap through these small towns with dilapidated railroads. And it's just a nightmare. These trains just keep derailing, okay? RJ says the number 17 is significant in the world of evil. Voted blue, so it was an FU. Well, they voted red, didn't they? They bitch about TikTok, but that is, like TikTok is our biggest problem. Yes, the spying is an issue, but we got bigger fish to fry. They can just shut that crap down and be done with it. Norfolk Southern responded and has agreed to fund response costs but we will continue to exercise full authority under the law to hold the company accountable under the Liability Act. So that's a super fun law, which gives EPA the authority to seek out the parties responsible, in this case Norfolk Southern, for the release of pollutants and contaminants and require them to clean it up and pay for it. The NTSB, which is an independent federal agency, is investigating the cause, plans to submit its preliminary. So with that, we know all that stuff, right? Okay. So now we're going to go back to this one. Oh man, it's the wrong one. Hold on. Let me stop my screen share here. It'd be easier to do. And let me check here. No, they don't care if we die. Well, it's not even that. It's that they don't care if you suffer and die. I mean, they seem to delight in it. It just, I don't know why it still shocks me. I want to believe that there's good in people, and I am now having to accept that that has been BS my entire life. I'm not talking about us, even the regular community that's a little crazy. I'm talking about our government. I thought we lived in the best country in the world, and people-wise, generally we do. But our government is just as corrupt as Russia, just as corrupt as Ukraine, probably worse because they're using these other countries to hide their corruption. And those people in those countries suffer. We're fighting a proxy war with Russia via Ukraine. All these Ukrainian people are dying. They're making people fight. Russians are dying, all because we were encroaching on Russia's border. And they wanted it stopped. We overthrew the government. We put Zelensky in place. We did all of that. And then, then it becomes a total shit show. And, you get an Afghanistan withdrawal on your hands. I mean, Afghanistan was just a huge money grab for military industrial contractors. Holden says, whoa. RJ says, people don't notice things like that. We need to revamp the CDC that I'm in charge of, right? Like she's saying that, like I'm saying it. Oh, well, you know what? The CDC's got some serious problems. They need to revamp that. If you're over the CDC, why are you writing a letter saying that? Just get your ass to work. Go through and see what's wrong and fix it. That's why we hired you. And I'm beginning to wonder if that is why they hired her. Did she not get sworn in so that eventually she couldn't give any testimony? Is that some loophole that they're going to use when it comes time to subpoena her? Oh, we went and we looked and she actually was never sworn in, so we'll have to give you the information because she doesn't have the security clearance to answer these questions. Can you guys see the BS spinning? Because I can sure see it. The bitch about TikTok, but that is how most knew about it. Yeah, people don't. Oh, the left are very reckless people. The left government, yes. And then you've got a contingency of the left. I know some people my kids are left. I don't know. They must have been switched at birth, but they're not idiots. They're not mean. They're not like, gosh, I hope they're not out, tearing crap up, and they live very productive lives. They have kids and they work. And Holden says that cloud went over my hometown of Newcastle, Pennsylvania. I bet it did. Holden, did you notice anything with that? Did you have any symptoms or anything? Holden or RJ says to Holden, that may be very determined and not reckless at all. RJ says, I was implying that they waited 17 days to respond due to their satanic calendar. Oh, that's actually a very good point. I forgot. That is one of their, is it like one of their fire holidays or something? It's something weird. We're talking about it in Jonathan Cahn's Return of the Gods. I think the train derailment is in that one. I'm not sure. Maybe not. It's in the subsequent talks that he does on YouTube, though. It's shocking because I am a decent human. I know, but I'm a decent human that has been, neck deep in this, in research since 2020. I just keep thinking at some point it's going to stop being shocking to me. But I'm just so outraged. I'm like, oh my gosh, leave us alone. Leave those poor people alone. They're poor. They're just trying to live their lives. Why do you got to screw with them? I mean, it's bad enough they're not going to get any help or assistance and you're just going to let the country go to crap, but you have to actually attack them on top of it. and then totally disregard them and only go down because your arm gets twisted. I mean, could you at least fake it and act like you care? They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Joe Biden's brother made 350 million on government contracts in Iran. Yeah. Iraq, yeah. Somewhere else, I think in Ukraine too. How many politicians' kids are on the boards of Ukrainian companies? Indeed. That's because they believe the left lies. I live in Arizona, but my friend could smell it. Wow, wow, wow. It's I it's just I want to make them stop, I'm thinking of the founders of this country, and where they said we had a right to bear arms. I am not suggesting violence. I am just talking about history. We have a right to bear arms to defend ourselves against a tyrannical government. And it also says that we have an obligation to remedy ourselves of that sort of government, um, to preserve what we have here. And I'm like, how much more? Like, if you do anything, it's sedition and it's insurrection, but how much more? Like, what more do they have to do to us before a good large majority would say, okay, this is crazy. These people are nuts. We have got to stop them, and we're going to stop them. I won't get any more. Hello, Muser. Welcome. I won't get any more detailed than that. But I just, like, how much worse is it going to have to get? I mean, it's getting to the point where I'm like, Lord, if there is a pre-tribulation rapture, come on. My bags are packed. I'm ready to go. I think these people are going to just implode this country. And I don't want to be here to see it. I don't want to live through that. I don't want to be here during a civil war. I don't want my grandkids here for that. So if there's for sure a rapture, I'm kind of praying there is, because I'm like, man, pull us out before it gets ugly, because I don't want to have to endure that. It is maddening to me. Let me see our comments here. Yeah, they don't hide anything anymore. It's in our face. Well, and it's in our face. And not only do they not hide it, but then when we confront them about it, they admonish us and treat us like we're crazy, or like it's none of our damn business. If I have to hear one more, who's that one? I could never think of his name. He does like the military, uh, like what's going on in oh, I almost had it. What's going on in Ukraine? He gives the updates on them because KJP can barely tie her own shoes. Um, don't ever ask how much more. We don't want to know. But I think we better start looking at what. That's why I was looking at Marburg in 2022, because I'm like, I don't trust these people. We've got to start getting protocols. It looks like hydroxychloroquine might be the ticket for Marburg. So that'll be interesting. I'm hoping that they're going to get some significant research going on. Not like they'd let us have it, but those that still have the balls to stop it are over 50. Yep. Yep. Well, but there are a lot of millennials that are starting to wake up. If you watch Benny's show or you watch Charlie Kirk, they're really working very hard to get to these young people, and they're doing a really good job. Let's Get Sewing says, I agree. There will be more. We're all here for a reason to help each other. Yeah. That's their plan, but God is shaking things up. The prophets are telling us his glory is coming. Yes. You guys, if you don't, please come to the book club, watch the last one, and then show up on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. This book is getting ready to get very interesting. And it's so funny because he's pulling these things out, and you can compare them, and it's like mirror images. What was going on when these demonic gods were the gods of the people in times long ago, and what's going on now. And it says that those demons will wander the desert looking for somebody else to inhabit. And when they find it, they'll bring 7 more back with them. And that sure seems like what's going on. That was smart to look into Marburg back then. Yeah. Well, I started looking at everything they were researching. And so it was like dengue, Marburg. They're getting ready to come out with an mRNA vaccine for RSV, that respiratory virus that gets little ones. And they're aiming that vaccine at the elderly and little kids. And YouTube, vaccine, vaccine, vaccine. Screw every one of you. You guys, you have blood on your hands. You guys, If this goes down on YouTube, you can always find me on Rumble. Just go to Rumble and search Nurse Penny. So if for some reason you don't see me on here again, that's why, and that's where you can find me. I've already got a warning and a strike. So the next one I think will be like a short-term suspension, maybe a week, and they'll take down the video. And then they've so limited my view. I've got 1,300 subscribers on or followers on YouTube. In the beginning, I was getting like 1,200 views on my videos. I'm getting maybe 100. I'm lucky if I get 200. And it doesn't make any sense because I have a near-death experience video out there on someone else's channel that has 1.7 million views. You cannot tell me that people aren't searching my name on YouTube. And they were able to find me until I got that strike. And then now nothing. I'm not growing. I've not added anybody. They just quietly shut you down. You made it the whole 2 hours. Well, I usually go 3. I usually go till 11:30 because Salty's isn't done. Salty gets done at 9:30, and so I try to go 2 hours because some of his folks. I usually Salty's like the best advertising you can get. I send him money every week via the Rumble Rant section, and then I haven't done it in a while. Yeah, I did Jeff Mara's. I did Shaman Oaks. Shaman Oaks is the one that's got 1.7 million views. Beyond Talking Points, Grief to Growth. Afonso, is it Derek Afonso? If I can't remember his name. There's a bunch of them out there, but the Shaman Oaks is the one that's got oaks like a tree, shaman like shaman. That one's got 1.7 million. Oh, and then there's Anthony Cheen. Anthony Cheen did the full documentary. It's an hour and 20 minutes. And we did that with a film crew and everything. That's a really good one. That one is on my Rumble channel. And the Beyond Talking Points one I think is on my Rumble channel too. But yeah, we're going to stop at 10:30. Don found out yesterday. I'm going to actually read something to you first, but Don actually found out that he doesn't have to work tomorrow, and so he's been working Saturdays. So he leaves at 5:30 in the morning, gets home at 5 in the afternoon, and he's killed. And then he's been working half days on Saturday. So this is our first Saturday together in a while, and I think we're going to get up early and go do something fun together. Maybe go up to Natural Bridge and do a hike or something. That would be really fun. And I could use the exercise. I need to get out and work off some of this white girl angst. Okay, so I want to read this last one to you. And I didn't do any videos this week because I had so many issues with sound last week. I'm sorry. There weren't a whole lot of really good ones to bring you this week. There's 2 channels I count on for those on Rumble because I will not go to YouTube for them. Here it is. This is my happy story for the week. I had to do something. This is from the Daily Mail. Hero who stopped runaway stroller rolling into traffic reveals he'd just finished a job interview at Applebee's when he leaped into action. I'm not going to read the bullets. A good Samaritan who rescued a baby boy in a stroller from rolling into speeding traffic has spoken out, revealing that he had just finished a job interview when he made the heart-stopping save. Ron Nessman had previously been homeless for 8 years and had just interviewed at a nearby Applebee's restaurant in Hesperia, California, when he saw the stroller rolling directly toward the main road. Agonizing video footage shows Nessman saving the baby after his great aunt suddenly tripped and fell down onto the ground, losing her grip on the stroller. Nessman had been sitting on the bench of a nearby car wash when he saw the baby propelling toward the 4-lane Bear Valley Road, pushed by strong winds blowing through the high desert. I didn't even have time to think about it. You just react, he told KCAL. I don't think this is no. Here we go. Turn. Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh, I'm just sick. Oh, honey, she's losing her pants. Look at him. Get her. She still can't get up. I think she hurt herself when she fell. That bottom leg's hurt. Oh my goodness. Look at that traffic go by, you guys. Doesn't that just make you want to throw up? Look at him hug her. Oh, isn't that crazy? What a hero he is. Homeless for 8 years. What a good soul he is. I seen her and I felt so bad for the lady, he told the outlet. I got nephews and nieces and I couldn't imagine something like that. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I did nothing. I'm just glad I realized it and was on it. He said he could imagine being in the kind of distress that he saw the baby boy's great aunt in at that crisis moment. Nessman, a former truck driver, lost his girlfriend in 2018. The tragedy sent him spiraling into depression, and he was homeless for 8 years. Bless his heart. He had only recently moved back to Hesperia to reconnect with his family and has been living with his sister for 3 months. My girlfriend passed away in 2018, he said. It was sudden, and I didn't want to do anything. He told NBCLA, I decided to get right. If you want something, listen to this. If you want something different in your life, you do something different. And that's where I am today. That is beautiful. I thank my sister for helping me out. She has always been there for me. Nessman's sister, Donna Gunderson, told the outlet about seeing her hero brother leaping into action to save the baby boy. I heard screaming to the right, she said, and I look back and I see a stroller going down the driveway and my heart dropped. At that moment, she saw her brother grab the stroller before it rolled into the road where she said cars do 50 and 55. It was a busy time of day. Nessman said he was thankful the child and his unidentified great aunt are both okay. He said, I knew I could get it, and I got it, and I'm thankful for that because I really wouldn't want to see the end result if I wasn't there. She tried everything she possibly could to get up. Her knees were bleeding. When I got up to her, she was still shocked and she was crying. Love her heart. So scared. Can you imagine watching your great niece, nephew rolling towards traffic? Hi, Nadine. Oh, you do live in Hesperia. That's so cool. Did you see this local story? The video was originally posted on Monday at 7:30 by USS Good Girl with the caption, "Windy AF here today," and the stroller rolled away. Thank God a man, they should capitalize the G in God. Thank God a man catches the stroller before anything bad happens to this lady's baby. The post has garnered 58 million views. Many users have taken to social media to say they hope Nessman gets the job at Applebee's. I think we ought to do a GoFundMe and see if we can help this guy get a place to live. Um, One person wrote, I hope he gets that job he applied for. Incredible. And another one said, please give him the job. Someone else wrote, I wish this man happiness and I hope he's able to get a job and move ahead with his life. Some people who watched the video wondered if there should have been a lock on the stroller. Well, there are locks, but you don't necessarily engage it. Holy crap, wrote one person. Why wasn't it locked? No, well, she had it. That was the thing. She didn't let her hand off the stroller. She fell and her hand came off this. I love how people are so quick to throw blame. This woman obviously had hold of the stroller, tripped, fell down. It went out of her hands and the wind took it. I just, obviously people who've never had a misstep in their lives. Before he was identified, many shocked viewers were grateful for Nessman's intervention. I hope the guy who saved the day by catching the stroller got some kind of kudos locally. Impressive feat. I watched that with my heart in my throat, wrote another user. God bless that man. That is just such an incredible story. Such an incredible story. And we're blessed to see it. We have to remember that. Hold on, let me move my chat over here. She was walking him in the stroller, yeah. Hold on, I want to bring this over here. Oh, for Pete's sake. I took a nap. Never again. That was a full circle heal. This is hearts. Wait, hold on. Hold on. YouTube sucks unless you're looking how to change headlights. I learned a lot about furniture restoration on there. That is heart stopping, says RJ. I remember seeing a gal on the news standing at a train stop, hitch up her pants, and the stroller almost went on the track at the worst time. Yeah, definitely a good dude, Jude Boob. RJ says, wow, that was a full circle healing, a loss and recovery, so many years in between with unanticipated traffic accidents. She was walking him in the stroller. Yeah. Nadine says, I'd fallen many times I've fallen too many times to not be heartbroken for that lady. Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple of falls. Um, no one intends to let their baby go rolling into traffic, and the stroller wasn't locked because she was pushing it. Big stupid moron, judging all the time. I'm like, life's hard. You got to pile on everybody all the time. It wears me out. So I was going to tell you this one story about this time that my life was saved. I was running an after school program. I'd started this after school program when our local Boys and Girls Club closed. Took a break from nursing because all these kids were going to be going home because parents couldn't afford the cost of daycare for a kid that's 7 or 8 or something like that, and or all the way up to middle school. And I'm like, these kids, if they go home and they don't have some um, structure to their time, they're going to get in trouble. They're more likely to be victims of violent crime. And so a group of us decided that we had to do something, and we started a not-for-profit after-school program, charged $15 a week, and what everybody that worked there was a volunteer. I was no, we had some paid people, and before I came on paid. In the first 6 months of our work, hi Pope Smokes, in the first 6 months of our work, we were nominated for a State of Kentucky Destiny Award for excellence in service to underserviced children. And we won it. We beat out the WIC program. If you guys don't know what WIC is, it's Women, Infants, and Children. It's a nutrition program where they help pregnant women get food and help with formula and stuff after the baby's born, and help with nutrition for the mom if she's breastfeeding. They'd been doing that for 50 years, and we beat them, and we won that award. It was such an honor. And so I had these 2 little kids in my program. They're grown now, but Hunter and Hayden Trujillo, Emily Trujillo, if you're watching or you're listening, you or your ears should be burning. But I had the 2 Trujillo kids in my program, and I think at the time Hunter was 6 and Hayden was 7 or 8 maybe. We had moved our program to a church out kind of on a road that's kind of out of the way, right? And so that was a new location for us. So I went to the after school program, and when I get there at 2:30, the first bus gets there at 2:45, and then they kind of keep rolling in, and my first staff doesn't get there until 3:30. And so I'm there alone with the kids that are there. Well, we had a little girl in the program who had cerebral palsy and had a history of seizures. And I had told that I wanted to prepare the kids in case she had a seizure, because I didn't want them to be traumatized. And I wanted to make sure they all had something that they needed to do during the seizure so that they didn't feel helpless, because that helplessness can cause a trauma for the child that impacts them later in life. And I didn't want that to happen. So I explained to them what a seizure might look like, and that she would be okay. We would just need to get her care, and that there were very important things that we needed to do to help her if she had a seizure. And so I would say, this one person is going to be the person who's going to pull the files out for me, and this person is going to get a pillow out of the closet. This person's going to get a blanket. Then everybody's just going to sit in a circle around Miss Penny and this person until the ambulance comes. And we're just going to, be there with her. And, of course, me doing what I need to do. And that is how we're going to help her if this happens. And that's a very good thing for us to do. And it's great that we can be friends like that to her and help her if she has one of these shaking episodes. And so the kids all knew what to do if this happened. So I've probably got 13 kids there. I'm there by myself, and I'm talking to my daughter on the phone, and I'm watching the kids across the room. I think my daughter had called to let me know she was going to be late getting there or something. And I'm talking to her, and her voice is getting further and further away. And I look across the room, and I think to myself, why are all the kids jumping up and down like that? Well, I was having a seizure. I had eaten lunch and everything, but every once in a while, my blood sugar just out of nowhere will crash. And if you followed me since 2020 when I had COVID, it happened during a live stream one day. I'm doing a live stream, and I'm just progressively getting more and more confused. and I'm unable to read because my eyes were so blurry. And I just kept saying, gosh, I just need to go to sleep. And I'm getting more and more slurred. And I've got hundreds, I mean, thousands and thousands of people watch those videos. Um, but I've got, all kinds of people watching live because they would watch for my updates. And they're all like, call your husband. But I couldn't read the words on the screen. And I just kept thinking, I just need to go to sleep. Um, and so one of the guys in the chat knows my husband, and he called him and he's like, you've got to get home right away. Something's wrong with Penny. And I just closed the screen. And so nobody knew what had happened. And so when Don gets home, I'm wandering in the hallway. I don't remember any of this. I remember not feeling good, but I don't remember anything after that. I'm wandering in the hallway, and he takes me in the bedroom and he checks my blood sugar, and it's 42. So if you don't know, 80 to 120 is normal. Um, anything 60 or lower, you're in trouble. Um, at 50, most people will pass out. At 40, you can have seizures. I've been as low as 23 before. And that is so crazy dangerous. So I'm having this seizure on the floor. The little girl gets the files out of the cabinet. Or no. First they take the phone because I dropped the phone, and Laura's on the phone, and all these kids know my kids. And my daughter's in middle school at the time. And she's like, Laura, something's wrong with your mom. She fell down. She's shaking. Her lips are blue. And Laura's like, hang up and call 911. So Hayden calls 911, and they're asking her where we are. Well, we had just moved to this building, so they didn't know the address, and they're like, I don't know. We used to be in this church, but we're now in this other church building, and we don't know the name of it. And they're terrified. And so the 911 operator worked with her and said, yeah, I'm not diabetic or anything. This just happens to me for some reason. Um, they're asking the kids, they're like, okay, what is on the road that you're on? And they'd asked him a bunch of questions that they couldn't answer. And then Hunter, the little one, says, it's on the same road as our old daycare is on. And they're like, okay, there's only three things on that road. And they said, what's the name of your old daycare? And they said, Stepping Stone. So they immediately then knew where we were. So the ambulance comes, gets there. My lips are blue. I'm in bad shape. And they give me an AMPA D50, which is a glucose type dextrose is what it is. And I don't recover. And so they get me in the ambulance. They give me another AMP in the hospital. Usually you only have to give somebody an AMP and you got them. Give me another AMP on the way to the hospital. Get to the hospital, I get a third AMP of D50, and I finally wake up. And when they gave me the first AMP, I dropped to in the 30s. My pancreas was just over secreting insulin like crazy. And so I'm in the emergency room. I wake up and I'm just sick. I'm vomiting. I feel horrible. And so once I got settled a little bit, and they'd given me some stuff to settle my stomach, and they're trying to get me to eat, pumping me full of sugar and giving me peanut butter, and they say to me, hey, there are people here to see you. Well, let me tell you, that kid, after they got off the phone, they got the files out of the thing. Well, so the ambulance gets there, the police get there, and Hayden says to the police, Miss Penny has this box that she keeps all of our files in. You're going to need to get the files out and call all of our parents and come get us. And we have to clean up before we leave. And so their parents, her mom, Emily, gets there, and they sit with the kids until all of the parents get there to get the kids. People actually sat there until we closed in case any kids showed up in the interim. And then they came to the hospital. And so they said, there's people out here that want to see you. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. And I'm thinking it's, my husband or something. And here comes Emily and little Hayden. Hunter didn't come back. I can't remember why. Maybe he didn't go to the hospital. And Hayden sees me and just bursts into tears. And I'm like, and I felt so bad because I had scared her. And I said, oh, honey, it's okay. It's okay. Come here. She climbs up in that bed with me. And I'm like, Hayden, you are so brave. Do you know how brave you are? You saved my life today. If you hadn't been here, I wouldn't be here. Those kids absolutely 100% saved my life, managed themselves for almost a half an hour until help got there because it took them so long to figure out where we were. And my lips were blue when she made the phone call. And I mean, without those two kids, I would not be on this planet. They came to my wedding. It's just, like I said, who am I that God would bless me in such a way? Every step. And a lot of people look at the bad things in their life and they think, all this bad stuff keeps happening to me. But on the other side of the bad thing that happens to you, you got on the other side. And so if you have that mentality that, yeah, this bad thing happened to me, but I overcame it, or simply by the help of others, I was able to get through it. I need to see if they'll come on with me sometime. Hayden's grown now. She's got, child of her own. I don't think she's got two. I think maybe she does have two. Um, but it just, this little girl had trouble in school, and I had gone to great extents to help her get caught up and everything, and had just developed such a love for that family. And we're still friends today, and it's just, I look back on that and I think every time I've almost died, something has pulled me out, which just assures me 100% that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, because God seems to keep throwing me back. um Nadine says, I'm so excited. It's the first time I got to be on your live chat. I'm so glad you're better from surgery on your shoulder. I love you so much, my friend. Thank you, Nadine. I'm going for my second opinion to figure out what's wrong with my shoulder since the surgery, on the 16th, I think. So I'll have an update for you guys after that. AJ says, my oldest, who is 28, has been type 1 since he was 5. He was at 11 before and couldn't remember. Yeah, 11 is scary. Did he have a virus or anything before he was diagnosed? Every person I've ever talked to who had a young kid had some kind of virus beforehand. So I'm super curious about that. Oh, thank you, AJ. Nadine. Oh, my Penny, you are meant to be here because you are a force. It's so funny you say that. My friend Brian's like, you are a force. And Don says it all the time. The enemy has tried to take you out, but God always wins. The cool thing about that, though, because of all of that, I've had to do so much of my own research medically because of my weird medical history. And it has beautifully and amazingly prepared me for when COVID came. Because when COVID came, I said, I've got this weird mast cell disorder that causes respiratory failure. And I kept saying to people, it's like mast cell activation disorder and malaria had a love child. And that is exactly what it was like. And it's just so funny that that I learned later that hydroxychloroquine is a stabilizer of mast cells. And hydroxychloroquine is, of course, is also the treatment for malaria. The reason the drug companies, we'll talk about this sometime, I've talked about it before, but the reason the drug companies killed hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin has, it's far deeper than COVID. In the few years leading up to COVID, there was a bunch of research that was being done on the use of hydroxychloroquine for cancer, multiple sclerosis, all kinds of different things, diabetes. Hydroxychloroquine is used as a diabetes treatment in India, as a primary treatment, not something you just tack on. And it's a very good drug for that. And because it decreases inflammation, it reduces diabetics' risk of heart disease. Anybody who takes it, even arthritic people who take it, it reduces their risk of heart disease and stroke. And so then it stabilizes mast cells. Well, mast cells are inflammatory cells that are in the mix for anything that's going wrong that involves inflammation. So anything that involves inflammation generally will be helped by hydroxychloroquine. So it was showing real promise for solid tumors, like solid breast cancer tumors, pancreatic tumors, and helping resensitize those tumors to the chemotherapy drugs. Ivermectin was showing real promise in actually treating the diseases itself, small cell lung cancer and pancreatic cancer in late stages. Ivermectin was showing the ability to reverse those. Well, those drug companies at the time all had big new drugs in the pipeline for those exact things. So my theory is that they didn't just kill it for COVID, which they did. They killed it because if you were taking either of those drugs prophylactically, like once a day or a couple times a week or whatever, and you had cancer or you had diabetes and your sugar was now, getting low, and so your doctor's like reducing, what would that have done to them? If you're taking ivermectin for 2 years and then your cancer disappears, that's going to be a real problem for the drug company who's got millions in R&D into making a drug for exactly that. hydroxychloroquine, one of the biggest money makers besides statins, cholesterol drugs, and hydroxychloroquine is also helpful for cholesterol. But one of the biggest money makers for drug companies are diabetic drugs. And the new diabetic drugs aren't any better than the old ones. They're just more expensive. And so if that had happened and we had figured it out, or doctors had figured it out, what would that have done to all of their drugs that were in the pipeline? And no one will ever convince me that that was not part of it, because even in the research that I was reading, it would say drug that only costs 20 cents a day shown to resensitize solid tumors to chemotherapy. And the same thing with ivermectin. Drug that only costs 12 cents a day is showing promise as an anti-cancer, or as a cancer treatment. And I'm like, you don't think they're keeping an eye on all? They make those drugs. The same companies that make them are doing this research. And I think it's like opposition research. They're doing that research and they're like, oh crap, this is going to work. We better stop. Because they don't want to push a generic drug. That would be suicide for them. And so and not only did they kill it, right? But they made everybody scared of it. They tied Trump's name. You could not read an article that had the word hydroxychloroquine in it without the drug touted by President Trump. They would attach his name to it. So anybody that didn't like Trump, or if they could make you feel bad about Trump or not like him, then you would also disregard anything he said about this drug. Then they went and they designed studies where they gave 6 times the normal dose of a drug that is cardiotoxic at those levels, and can't even be dialyzed out. You can't even put somebody on dialysis and get it out. It's got a 30 to 50 day half-life in it. So you're still overdosed that far out. So they overdosed all these people and killed them in these clinical trials on purpose. Like, there's no reason that you would think a drug that is given in 200 to 400 milligrams should suddenly be given in 2,400 milligrams. There's no basis for that. And yeah, they altered it just a little. And so these people were killed by it. And what the story was, we never got the causes of death on these people. And the story is, well, it couldn't have been because of toxicity of the hydroxychloroquine, because they didn't die right away. As though I'm too damn stupid to look up and see what the half-life of hydroxychloroquine is. I'm like, do you think that medical people don't listen? Of course, most medical people didn't look it up, I guess, but I did. And I'm like, it's got a 30 to 50 day half-life. You've still got 1,200 milligrams in your system that far out. And then 30 more days, you're down to 600 because it's half of whatever's left. It takes months and months to get it out of your system. So when you're overdosed for a long time. You could die at any point. Then they didn't have parameters in there to check the blood sugars of people they were giving those huge doses to. And so you give somebody 2,400 milligrams, I guarantee you their blood sugar is going to crash, whether they're diabetic or not. So anybody who wasn't diabetic was not getting their blood sugar checked. And I'm guessing they wrote them off to COVID deaths, and they probably were hypoglycemic comas, or they're in a coma and hypoglycemic, and you have no way of knowing. And that death just is hidden. It's just, you guys, it's so much worse than you realize. I mean, I try to kind of keep it to the high points, just the talking points of what you really need to know, but the depth of it is terrifying. Pope Smoke says, I hope your shoulder's doing well. Not to change the subject, just curious. It's not. We've got some kind of issue. I don't know if it's nerve damage or what. I had cranial nerves 9, 10, and 12. I can't remember which ones that were damaged during the surgery. And now I can't, and now it just snaps and cracks, and you can feel like, it feels like bone sliding over bone. And I'm not impressed with the doctor who did it, of course, because he's doing nothing. Like, he's not even going to do an x-ray to look at it. And you can just hear it. It's like crunch. And I have weakness in it. It's worse than it was before the surgery. So I'm going to go see this other doctor. If I've got to have another surgery to fix it, we'll just have to do it. But we got to get some answers on it, because I need to be able to use that arm. Didn't they rebrand or rename ivermectin recently? I think they combined it with something. Yeah, I wish I could remember that. You're right about that. They combined it with something, I think, to make it longer acting, or I can't remember. I'll have to look that up. Yeah, they did. They just altered it a little. so that they could call it something new. Juboob says, I started watching the show at 43, but I'm used to being low. I started watching the show at 43, but I'm used to being low. I can walk around in the 30s. Oh my goodness. And think, I don't feel right. Well, you know what's bad is when it happens to me, immediately I get confused. And so I can't figure out what's wrong with me. Like it's not even all the time that I drop so low, but that I drop so fast. So I'll be like tooling around at 120 and then suddenly like in a 2-minute time frame drop to 60. And it's such a fast drop that it renders me confused. And then I just keep dropping because I can't figure out what's going on with me and I don't know how to fix it. But it doesn't happen often enough for me to have like a continuous monitor or anything. But the weird thing is it's usually 2 hours after a meal. And no matter, like, I can't eat anything sweet for breakfast or there's going to be serious trouble by 10 a.m. So I'm really careful with my diet, but sometimes it still just hits me out of the blue. My mom passed at the end of 2019. She had many problems, but they said she had pneumonia and developed shock. Yeah, she probably got septic. I put the oximeter on her that morning and couldn't get a reading. Oh my goodness, AJ. That's terrible. People forget. I'm amazed at how quickly people forget. They just want to move on with this. They don't want to have accountability. And I'm like, weren't we all here together for the last 3 years? What do you mean? We're just going to let these people off and we're not going to charge them? This is crazy. Thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are dead from medical neglect or medical malpractice or being poisoned. And we're not going to do anything about this. Let me tell you, if we don't do something about it and Marburg does come through here, forget it. Forget it. I do not trust. I will never. There's no way you could convince me. And screw you, YouTube. There is no way you can convince me to ever get another vaccine again. I have no faith in our public health. I have none. Absolutely none. I'm figuring out how to treat these viral things that can turn into bigger things. And it's pretty much supportive care, all stuff we can get over the counter. And I'm just not doing it. In fact, I'm trying to get off all the drugs, all the prescription medications I can. I'm not on a bunch, but I want down to just my hormones because I don't have ovaries and my thyroid medicine. I want down to just those two because all these drugs are made in China. And we've had these drug recalls because there's been cancer causing agents in these drugs. What they don't tell you is the drugs that have these cancer causing agents that aren't supposed to be in there are coming from China. So like they took, what was it, Pepsid off the market for a while. I think it was Pepsid because it had a cancer causing agent in it. That drug shipped straight from China. You don't think China is going to put stuff, poisons, toxins in our drugs to make us sick and cause us to have all these, other things go on? Absolutely. They're the ones sending the fentanyl over. They'll do whatever they have to do. They want to be the superpower. And so do we. We're no better. I mean, it's just, our government's a hot mess. RJ, you need a service dog that can alert you when your blood sugar goes low. Oh, my husband would freak. He's not a dog person. He likes dogs. He just doesn't want to live with one. Maybe we could train the cats to do it. Nuremberg 2.0, me either, only for trauma. Yeah, that's it. I mean, if I could get away with not taking, if the iodine would bring my blood sugar up enough, or not blood sugar, my thyroid levels up enough, I would get off it altogether. But I mean, my health is going to go right down the tubes if I do that. There's certain things you just need. I wish I could figure out a way to source them from the States, though. But the thing is, like, even if you could get it compounded, those chemical compounds, all the recipe that you would need to make it, that all comes from China too. Holden McGroin, it's like Holden McGroin and Jubu both in the chat. Pope Smokes is in the chat. We have all the vices here. Holden McGroin says getting that shot was the worst medical decision I ever made. What kind of fallout have you had from that, buddy? Hopefully you're taking some of the countermeasures to get the spike protein under control and protect you going forward. There are treatments for that. They're not cheap, though. I tell you what. But that's scary, and a lot of people got it. They didn't know. They were like, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to get my mom or my grandma sick, or I've got serious health problems." Some people are saying this and some people are saying that, and I guess I'll just better safe than sorry. I mean, you didn't see people. It wasn't like there were newscasts of people, falling down in mass, maybe one or two, and it just looked like fainting. RJ said, I just noticed the weirdest thing. One of my fingers is bending backwards. Huh. Did you hurt it? Or is this just a new talent you've developed? I hope not. Holden McGroin says, I have a horrible cough in the morning that I never had, and I have a sharp pain in my arm, and I get out of breath a lot sooner. So have you been to a cardiologist? I definitely at least go to your doctor. You need to have that assessed, and I would try to find a doctor that is awake about the vaccines. I mean, the sharp pain in your arm, you need an ultrasound for that to make sure you don't have a clot. You need a chest X-ray for that cough to make sure you don't have any kind of chronic inflammation going on in your lung. And the getting out of breath sooner, I definitely think you need to have a D-dimer done. A D-dimer, just D-dimer, will tell us if you're clotting or not. If you're inappropriately clotting. Not hurt, it's talented by itself. Yeah, you need an EKG, a chest X-ray. You need a basic labs. You need a CBC, a CMP, a D-dimer, a CRP, and a sed rate at the very least. Yeah, they said everything is fine, but do you know what test they did? Did they do an ultrasound? Did they do because a lot of people are like, oh, I went to the doctor and they said everything is fine. And I'm like, okay, what did they check to figure that out? And they're like, oh, they did all my labs. And when you go and people think they go and when you get your labs done that everything is checked. No, like, at most eight basic things are checked. I'm talking about a serious workup, seeing the cardiologist, seeing a pulmonologist. Something's going on. You shouldn't be getting out of breath sooner. Cardiac enzymes. Yeah, the cardiac enzymes will probably be fine because he's so far out. And when you have heart damage, those are only high for about 48 hours. But I think it's worth a check just the same in case you've got like a low grade heart inflammation going on. But yeah, I mean, you need an EKG, you need an echocardiogram, you need a chest X-ray, you need these labs done. Right, you see him every 30 days, but what tests is he doing? Like here, I'm going to type in what needs to be done. If he's done these things, you need to ask him to go through the results with you. If I can get my stupid cursor over here. Okay. You need a CBC, CMP, sed rate, D-dimer, CRP, chest X-ray, EKG, echocardiogram. Very least. That is the basic work. We did blood flows, stuffs, what blood work? Ultrasound. Yeah, ultrasound. Thank you. Ultrasound of arm. If you go to the doctor and just say, hey, did you do all this stuff? And if you come back and you tell me he did all of that stuff and it was normal and you saw a lab result for a CBC, you should be able to get into your patient portal and look and see what was done. And then you will at least know what you had done. We need to make sure that this baseline set of things were done. If all of these things weren't done, you have not been appropriately worked up. Just taking your doctor's word for it that your blood looked fine and you're okay without knowing what they actually looked for in your blood. I mean, if he just did a CBC and a CMP and that was fine, that's not going to tell you if you've got a clotting issue going on. It's not going to tell you if you've got mass inflammation going on. If you've not had a chest X-ray, if you're having trouble breathing or you're getting out of breath, I would think that would mean microclotting, but it could also be, what is that called, you guys, where they do to see if you've got a VQ mismatch? It's, you have to inhale that stuff and then they scan your lungs. It's called It's not a pulmonary function test. And if you're having trouble breathing, I would send you on to a pulmonologist so they can assess, do a pulmonary function test and see. Yeah, I just hold them in groin. Listen specifically to what I'm saying. Those labs that I listed, ask your doctor if those specific labs were done. Because if you just went to the doctor and they didn't check labs looking for what I'm talking about because they don't realize that the shots can cause these problems, then they might not think to do a CRP and a sed rate and a D-dimer, um, ultrasound, scan your arm with an ultrasound to make sure you've not got little clots in there. I mean, he may have done it. I just want you to make sure, because if you're having these issues, we should be able to do a test and figure out why you're having them. Okay, yeah, you've not had a complete workup. You've not had a chest x-ray. That's the most basic thing. A doctor that, when you tell them you're getting short of breath, that doesn't do a chest x-ray makes me very nervous, because that would be the first thing I would do. The fact that he's not ultrasounded an arm where you're having pain and you're also having shortness of breath, pain and shortness of breath, VQ scan, thank you. Pain and shortness of breath can both be signs of blood clotting. If this doctor was keyed in on what's going on with these shots, he would have absolutely sent you for an ultrasound of your arm. And a VQ scan to check for a PE. Yeah, if you're uncomfortable, just take the list to your doctor and say, "Hey, I know you've done a bunch of tests. Could you tell me if you've done these and if they were okay?" Yeah, definitely go into your portal, your medical portal, and I mean, I go over people's labs all the time. So if you're comfortable with that, you can email me and I will look at your labs for you and I can tell you what you've had, what you still need. Um, Debbie will tell you I'm very good at this. So uh, you would be amazed how much these doctors miss. I'm not bad mouthing doctors. It's just the state of healthcare today. Dolores says, "Good evening, Penny. I feel exactly the same way. I weaned off all pharma for that same reason, was prompted by God 2 years ago." Wow, you're way ahead of me. Nadine, the things you reveal are teaching me so much. I tell you, this brain of mine, it's crazy. Holden, Western medicine is not trustworthy anymore. Yeah, exactly. Please do what Penny's asking you to do. Yes. I'm just having worked with, I mean, we're getting close to 2,000 patients now. Um, I've just done it so much. I know this is the stack of what you need done. People will message me and say, "I'm having this, and this." And I'll tell them, "Okay, these are the tests you need." And 9 times out of 10, we find what's going on in those tests that weren't done. But the fact that you're having chronic shortness of breath and and arm pain, um, and that you've not had a chest x-ray, and you've not had your arm ultrasounded, is a big red flag for me. And I mean, that would make me nervous about my doctor. And I'm not saying that he might be a very nice person, maybe he's done a great job by you, but this is a whole different animal. And I would say probably 70%, and that might be counting it really low, have not done any significant reading during this whole thing. They've just listened to what they've heard on the news and what the CDC is saying, and they're just following those guidelines. They're not looking for a lot of them think that if you didn't have an issue within a few weeks of the vaccine, that there's no way it could still be the vaccine. And so they're not looking for it. If you don't know that something could be a problem, then you don't know what to look for. And they're being told that there's no way it could be the vaccine, especially this far out. So you're not going to get an appropriate vaccine injury workup, and you need one. You absolutely need one. You are able to sit right here and tell me, "Penny, I didn't have any of these things before the shot, and I now have them." And I'm telling you, for your own welfare, you need to make sure these things are okay. I'm telling you this because I love you as a person. It doesn't matter if I know you or not. There is a God love in me for you. And I will sleep better. Just do it for me. I'll sleep better knowing you've had all of that. And I know you've probably been back and forth a million times and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I've had all these labs done. They've checked everything. It's fine. I just am not normal anymore." Well, you're not normal for a reason. And that's a reason that we should be able to find. So I will not lecture you anymore on it. And please come back and watch our live stream. I don't want you to leave, and I don't want you to feel bullied or anything. But I believe that they monitor you for just about everything, but you don't know what the everything is, so I can't be sure of that unless I see it or you find out about it. So just copy those tests down. I'm gonna write them one more time for you. CRP. I'm sure they've done a CBC CMP. CRP, SED rate, D dimer, chest X-ray. The fact that they haven't done a chest X-ray as a critical care nurse, I'm telling you, that is a huge red flag for me. They're not monitoring you very closely because you've not had a chest X-ray and they've not scanned your arm at the very least. D dimer, chest X-ray, echocardiogram. That's not an EKG. An EKG is different. CRP, SED rate, D dimer. What's the one I keep forgetting, guys? Chest X-ray. It was up in the chat. Sorry, guys, if you're new here, it turns into this a lot. We'll get somebody, and the reason we talk about it in front of everyone is there's a lot of people that are having these same issues, and they're scared to say something. So when somebody like Holden McGroin says, hey, you know what, I'm having some issues since the vaccine, we just go ahead and address it because first, it's easier than me answering a million different emails with the same questions. Second, because you're now hearing it. And then the next time you hear it, you'll think, you know what, I remember Penny talking about this. And you're more educated. And then you can, it's called Underground Nightingales is the movement. I figure it out. I learn it. I coordinate with other people who are also doing the same sort of stuff. Then I tell you, then you tell others. And this thing multiplies like crazy. All right, quit that. CRP, SED rate, D dimer, chest X-ray, ultrasound of arm. If they're monitoring you closely, they won't mind a bit to do these things for you. Say, look, you know, I'm sure it's nothing, but it would really put my mind at ease. And the thing is, you're having the symptoms that even the insurance company would say, yes, these tests are justified with the symptoms. You meet the medical criteria that should point a doctor to saying, we need to do a chest X-ray on this guy. Something's up. You know, he shouldn't be getting out of breath easier. So just, I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to make you feel piled on. AJ says, I would definitely go to you if I needed help before. It's funny. I had a bunch of people. I can't remember when it was. Debbie might remember, but a bunch of people were like, look, if you will go to nurse practitioner school, we will raise the money to pay for it. And the problem with that is, even if I were a nurse practitioner, I wouldn't do the VQ scan just yet. I would wait and see what that D dimer shows. If I go to medical school or if I go to nurse practitioner school, I could practice, but I would have to practice within a medical practice and be under the supervision of a doctor, which would mean I couldn't do any of this because I've thought about it. And I'm like, look, the people that would help put me through, I could, offer super low cost consultations for them, because they helped me get through school. But the thing is, I wouldn't be allowed to do any of this. I wouldn't be allowed to tell you any of this. I wouldn't, it just wouldn't happen because the system won't allow it. Not getting a chest X-ray is my fault. Right. But get it done. Your doctor needs to say, hey, you need to get that chest X-ray done. Yes, please do that. Do that. Don't make me, Holden McGroin, I will come over there. Ask Debbie Bender. She'll tell you. Oh, yes, Dr. McCullough. Absolutely. Well, you know what? I hadn't thought of that. I think he's got to be in the same state, though. I don't know how telemed works for nurse practitioners, though. That's interesting. Look at RJ coming up with all her smartness. Yeah, that is the thing, though. I mean, if I said anything negative about the vaccine, I would be in danger of losing my licensure. That's why I retired my nurse's license, because they sent out that letter and said even if you were retired, they would come after you. And I'm like, well, I'd like to see that. But, I'm always careful to tell people this isn't medical advice. This is just what I would do if I were you. Always consult your physician and your pharmacist before starting any new treatments or supplements or anything like that, because I'm not a doctor. I'm just a retired nurse, but that's what I would do if it were me. or my family. In fact, I would be dragging them in to get those things done. And then once you get all those things done, then you're like, okay, I'm just weirdly getting old or something. Um, or you've got some effect from the jab that is not detectable at that point. I wanted to tell you guys, since everybody has quit getting the jabs, I have quit breaking out in shingles. Do you guys remember, if you've been with me a while, you know that every time I would go out where there was a group of people, I would break out in shingles. I think it was something like 6 or 7 months times, I had had 7 outbreaks of shingles. It was horrible. Um, well, I started thinking the other day, you know what? I have not broke out in shingles in forever. And I started thinking, "Oh my gosh, that's got to be it because nobody's getting vaccinated anymore." But every single time, and if I was go over to my kids' house when I saw my kids after they were jabbed, within 48 hours I had shingles, and Dr. McCullough was actually going to write it up. Um, he's like, "Start taking pictures and keeping dates." And but by the time I talked to him, the vaccine rate was going down, and I think I only had one more attack after that, and I've not had any since. I didn't get that letter and I didn't want to renew my license, but I almost bought a house, so I renewed it just in case. Interesting, because I know, like here in Kentucky and Tennessee, almost every nurse that I know of got it. Um, AJ says my hubby was forced to get it. He got the J&J. He has the biggest rash on his back, all over his. He still has a rash. Have they biopsied it? Muser says painful. Um, yeah, he needs to go to a dermatologist and have it biopsied. What color is it? Be your own best advocate during COVID at the hospital. Yeah, we had a couple nurses and at least one doctor, Debbie's sharing this, outright lie on our medical records. Yes, they did. One tried to get John to take a COVID vaccine in the hospital when he was in the hospital with COVID. I'm like, what? That's how dumb they are. That's horrible. You don't even give kids vaccines when they're sick. This guy's critically ill in the hospital with COVID, and they're trying to give him a COVID vaccine. What the hell good is it going to do now, even if it worked? This is how bad it is, you guys. They were giving it to people in nursing homes who had COVID or had just gotten over COVID, and they were just dropping dead. And I was reading the death reports on VAERS. You know, they're like, patient recently developed sore throat, tested positive for COVID, got COVID vaccine, day 2 of illness, went in patient's room, patient dead. I mean, that's not the exact wording, but you get the picture. He has a bad rash. It's been a year and a half. It's dark brown. Okay, brown rashes are generally mast cell issues. Um, so if it's a mast cell rash and he gets a biopsy, it'll give a positive result. You'll get your answer. So I would definitely go to a dermatologist, have it biopsied, and tell them you want them to look and see if there's mast cells in it. Because sometimes they do a biopsy and they don't order that particular test, I guess. Because I've seen biopsies come back where they didn't check it. But yeah, I would definitely do that. I would say, hey, can we get him? Oh yeah, shingles is so painful. The last time I got it, it spread. I always get it in like the crease where your butt meets your leg. Um, the time that I got it, that it was really bad, and you only get it on one side of your body. It actually crossed over, and it got on my face, inside my ear, up my nose, on the inside of my cheek, on the side of my tongue, and down my throat. And that's called disseminated shingles, and that can kill you. And I was like, I've got to stop going out. I want to say that I can't remember what, but we went to this big thing. There was a bunch of people there, and we were in bleachers, and so we were really close to, maybe it was the karate tournament. I can't remember, but I was just in super close proximity, and 48 hours like clockwork. I agree, Nadine. These people do need to be held accountable. They're monsters. Amoxiclav is 125 milligrams. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I will email my lab results at the end of the month. Okay, sounds good. Pope Smokes. Wait. I didn't catch. Oh, hold on. I missed that. Let me slide back up in the chat. I'm using this smaller pop-out box, and it's doesn't show me quite so much of the screen, so I can miss stuff. I want to leave here and not answer a question for you. RJ's licensed in Missouri and lives in Washington, worked at the VA. Oh, so you don't have to get a Washington license. Pope says, my wife and I are both sick with sinus infection. We've been on a Moxclav for 24 hours. We were both running a little fever today. Is that normal? That's normal. Always sinus rinse. If you've got a sinus infection, it will get you over it so much faster. You can put a little drop of betadine in there. It's also called povidone iodine. It's that brown stuff we used to put on wounds. Just unless you're allergic to it, put a drop of it in the sinus rinse, like in those 8-ounce sinus rinse bottles, and it'll obliterate whatever's in there. It's not even that they're dumb. They're evil and they're lazy. I don't think they're all evil. I definitely think they're lazy. Or they're just so overworked and don't have time. But for me, I couldn't do that. If I couldn't give appropriate patient care, I would have to reduce my patient load because I'm not going to shortchange people. That's crazy. I couldn't live with myself if I missed something. I mean, even as a nurse, I kept such a close eye on my patients in the hospital. I knew every little thing. I'm like, wow, she didn't drink quite as much today, or her mood seemed a little down today, and then I would kind of compare that to vital signs and labs and see if I could find any link because the person wasn't acting at their baseline. So that would be from shedding from vaccinated people, the shingles you experience. I can't prove that, Nadine, but we are seeing it, and it has definitely been my personal experience. I've not found any good data on it. I may reach out to Dr. McCullough and see if they've got anything new on that. But I know people were breaking out with shingles also when they had COVID. I broke out during COVID. It was if you didn't see the video I posted the other day, I go into detail on how bad my COVID was. It's the video with Dr. Fauci as the picture on it. I hope you feel better too. Is that why you're home on a Friday night? Because you guys are both sick? Because Pope Smokes usually works on Friday night. Then they told us Debbie's saying they told us we would die if we left against medical advice. We would have died if we'd stayed for their remdesivir and Tylenol and ventilator treatments. We had Penny's regimen and oxygen at home. We were livid. Hold on, it's kind of a continuing thing. She's only got a certain amount of words. It was bad, Juboob. I almost flew to them to take care of them because they were my sickest people that had it with the most high risk factors. They were, if anybody was going to die from COVID, it was going to be Debbie and John Bender, and I was not going to have it. If we were on the phone all the time or texting all the time, I'm like, okay, now do this. But within 4 days, now they told them if they went home, they would die. They were that sick. Within 4 days, John was somewhere buying breakfast, and within a week, they were Christmas shopping. So it works. Thank you, Nurse Dr. Penny. You're welcome, Pope Smokes. Is that my official promotion from Salty? I'm feeling it, Pope. Hugs to you and wife. Penny, sometimes you just don't need data or peer-reviewed studies. You just need to know things are not right. That's it. If you are smart and you're a good medical detective, you can put things together. If you listen to a patient and you pay attention to what they're saying and you ask a bunch of questions, the patient will guide you to the answer 9 times out of 10. They'll at least guide you to where to start looking. And then you start looking and you do it with the patient. You say, you know what, there's something going on with you and it's not right. You're having these symptoms and it can be several different things, but let's start with working you up for this. And then we'll go from there and we'll just keep monitoring how you're feeling. If anything changes, I want you to get back with me right away. And then you follow up with that patient, checking in with you. How are you feeling? Let's get you in for a recheck. Your labs came back. This was, you know what I mean? It's supposed to be a relationship. It's not supposed to be a McDonald's. I mean, my orthopedist that did my shoulder, the lady told me the other day that they schedule 10 patients for every 15-minute slot. And you wonder why you're missing stuff. You're wondering why I'm still having so much shoulder trouble and no one's even thought to order an x-ray on my shoulder. Like the most basic thing you would do would say, let's get an x-ray. No, it's not occurred to anybody. I mean, the last time I went to the doctor, you guys, they did an ultrasound to see if I had an infection. And they documented that I had full range of motion, full strength. There's like 12 tests they do to check if your arm's working appropriately. They didn't do any of those things. Not only did they not do any of those things, they charted that all of those things were normal. RJ, can you tell us what happens when you chart things that you didn't do and you just make up the values and put them in the chart? RJ will be able to tell you what happens if you're a nurse. Thank you, AJ. She says you're amazing. It's God, you guys. God is all over me. God is just speaking through me to you because he loves you and he wants you to be okay. And he, for some reason, has picked me to do it. I'm not saying I'm a prophet or anything like that. I'm just saying, you know, I got a skill set. I got a very specific skill set. My name is Liam Neeson. And I won't stop till I get to the bottom of it. I can't. I'm like a dog with a bone. Ask Lady Be Good. Lady Be Good's got a family member who has a neurological problem. We have been brainstorming this thing at least 6 months, probably longer. Nadine says, my husband brought COVID home to me. Oh, love his heart. Always feels bad when you somebody you love, you make sick. I never been so sick for so, yeah, I was sick 53 days, critically ill. I had no insurance, so I just took over-the-counter medication. Took you 2 months. I believe you. I 100% believe you. I'm happy that you were able to get better. If you go to my website, because you can get it again, and who knows how they're going to juice it up. In the description is my website. If you go there, there's a free download for the over-the-counter protocol. You don't need a prescription for anything. The reason I did that was because people were having such a hard time getting hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. And I'm like, that protocol is great, but if you can't get it, it's useless. So I researched and I found what over-the-counter or what supplements would do the same thing. And lo and behold, we've not had one person. Now, when Debbie and John got sick, they had not started the protocol before they went to the hospital. For all of my people who started the protocol and hadn't been to the hospital, and they did not end up in the hospital. We did not have one death, and we do not have any long COVID in my group. Debbie, good grief, Penny, you are not getting needed treatment. I am not getting needed treatment. I think that's why I'm so sensitive to it when when someone says, "Oh, I'm just getting short of breath really easy," and I've not got a chest X-ray yet. Of course, now we know that's his doing, but I just want to make sure that you may have had a completely total workup, but let's be sure. All the docs are overbooked, hospitals understaffed. Well, I mean, they ran every good nurse they had off. Thank you for your service, Pope. I worked for the VA for 17 years. That's amazing. I have a VA whistleblower. We're going to be getting her on. She's just been super busy. RJ, people in the hospital were not getting the care they needed, even with a court. People in the hospital weren't even being fed. There are people that I know of that were in the hospital for 2 or 3 weeks that never got fed, nothing. All they got were IV fluids. That was it. You can't do that. You're not going to get better if you have no nutrition. There's also, Nadine and everybody else, if you've been, no, I don't think I've got a post-jab protocol on there. I've got a protocol on there if someone's going to force you to get the jab to try to keep you from going into an inflammatory crisis after. And I've asked people to reach out if they've used it, but nobody has. But it just what I know about this and how it works. I'm hoping the vaccine is much the same as the illness in those sorts of ways. And that protocol that I've got for the post-jab, I think it should work, and it should prevent like something catastrophic, hopefully. But you would have to start it beforehand and probably be on it for about a month. It's in there. I talk about it. And then also in the protocol are all the links to how I decided to put that thing in the protocol. And I put a little education in there. It probably seems really overwhelming because people are like, just tell me what to take. But I wanted to put the education in there because I have so many people who share the information or share the protocol with other people. And then those people will have questions, and it's all in there. It is wordy. I probably do need to go through and slim it down, but and the other reason that there's so many options in there is because different people can't take different things. And so there's a multitude of things in there that you can use that will all be helpful if you can't take this thing or that thing. But definitely, definitely, if you get sick with any kind of respiratory virus, do not take Tylenol. You're more likely to get pneumonia, and a serious pneumonia, if you take Tylenol, because it reduces your glutathione levels, and your glutathione is one of your major anti-inflammatories in your body. And that's a lot of what was causing people problems. Round the clock Tylenol. Doctors like, go home, take Tylenol every 4 hours. And you're just tanking your glutathione, and your lungs are getting more and more inflamed. And we know, we have the data that shows that the people who died had the lowest glutathione levels, lowest vitamin D levels. Janik says, I had to leave for a while. Glad I'm back. This is a really good group of people. This is the best chat. And you guys, I go to a lot of chats. That's where most everybody knows me from, is some other chat. Because I am so dedicated to this podcaster community that I go to other chats and try to contribute in a way that helps grow their chat. And also because stuff like this will come out and people don't realize this information is out there. And I can say, hey, I do a podcast. I've got good information, but it's just so cool. Cause like I donate to other podcasters, because they're doing good work. And if nobody supports them, the work will stop. The people that work at mainstream media, if you stop paying them, they will stop going to work. And the same is true of us. And so those people go to work and get paid, like they actually make money. We're not even covering our own costs. The Pope smokes, you're so sweet. So consider that. Like I said, not just me. If you've got, and not me necessarily, if you've got a podcaster that is really adding value to your knowledge base, like I said, throw them $1, throw them $2. God will bring the multiplication. God is such a big fan of multiplication. You watch, you'll be in a chat and you'll see one person give $2, then pretty soon somebody will give $1 and somebody else will give $5. It kind of sets it off. Like if you're at an auction, you know how people will go back and forth. That's God bringing the multiplication. Every month I get a few donations, and I'm like, and from people I know who are on limited budgets, which just blesses me to no end. And I'll have people say, gosh, I sent you $5. I know it's not much. And I'm like, watch God increase it tenfold. You just watch. May not be today, but he'll do it. That's a promise from God. And God's promises are yes and amen. Debbie says, at least 1 to 2 times a year, have your levels of vitamins, minerals, and important things like glutathione. Yes. Check my blood test. Stay on high normal level with supplements. Yes. I don't like anybody's vitamin D level to be below 50. 30 is considered normal. 30 will keep you from getting rickets. I think we ought to aim a little higher. Okay. Rickets should not be like, oh, at least I don't have rickets. It's so stupid. And it's vitamin D3. D2 is not going to help your immunity. You need to take D3. But anyway, it's all in that protocol. You can pull it down. There's all kinds of education in there about D3 and every other thing. I've been thinking about trying to get those Facebook videos of when I was sick pulled over. It's a big job though, because they're long. But if you guys go through that video I made that's got the Dr. Fauci thing on there, there's pictures of me when I have COVID that are terrifying. I ended up with viral sepsis, pneumonia in both lungs, heart inflammation, liver and kidney damage, shingles. I had auditory and visual hallucinations. I had 3 falls, 2 bed sores. I lost 15 pounds of muscle mass. My hair fell out. I'm trying to think if I had any GI stuff. Excruciating headaches. If you've ever had an epidural and had a spinal headache, headaches like that. I was suicidal. I just was like, I can't, because we couldn't get the meds. And I'm like, I can't suffer like this every day. My bones hurt to my core. It was excruciating. Like, I'm not one to take pain medicine, and my doctor kept offering it. And finally, I'm like, if I don't go to sleep If I don't get some sleep soon, I'm going to die. I can't do it anymore. I can't be in excruciating pain. And I mean, I'm taking like these big vitamin C intramuscular injections, big old knots on my legs. I mean, I was doing everything I could do. Yeah, I had hallucinations. Um, it was crazy. I kept seeing people in the house, and it just was so, my blood sugars were crashing. It was a night. It's a miracle I survived. Um, it was so bad. Everybody that watched, people from all over the world were like, I tune in every day just to make sure you're still alive. People were offering to send me their own medications because they're like, if, and they kept telling me, go to the hospital, go. And I'm like, I am telling you, I know in my spirit, if I go to the hospital, I'm not coming out. They told me I would never survive the ventilator again. I've been on the ventilator 18 times, you guys. I have a weird mast cell disorder. It's in remission. Um, and this is the last thing I'm going to tell you guys. I'm going to pray us out. Wait. Thank you for the reminder. Just took my D3. I have chronic Lyme disease, had bad flare-ups. Look up Lyme disease and hydroxychloroquine. It breaks what is that? There's like a coating that these viruses get on them, or that Lyme disease isn't a virus. That's just completely left my brain. But anyway, there's like a coating that it gets on it that the drugs can't break through. So look up hydroxychloroquine and Lyme disease, and you'll have some very interesting reading. You were at home when you got bed sores. I never went to the hospital. I knew they would kill me. I was just so weak. I couldn't turn very free. I mean, go watch that video that I put up. And that was on a good breathing day. My stats were getting as low as into the 70s. I had 104.9 temperature for 3 days sustained. Nothing would break it. I think, Debbie, every day up until like the last week or so, I was at least 102 every day for 50 some days, usually 103 or higher. It's the one on Rumble. It's the one that's got the picture of Dr. Fauci on it. Hold on, I can pull it up and we'll just watch it. I didn't think of that. Okay, I got to figure this out. I'm over here on StreamYard. Pull it up here. Rumble.com. It's short, so we can watch it real quick. There's Penny. I don't know why I didn't think of that. And we'll go here. I got to come over here and share it first. Stop screen, present, share screen. We got to do the one where it's just a tab. This one. Share. Oh, crap. I got to pull the video up first. Hang on. Stop screen. I think I do. They're getting ready to integrate the Stream Deck and Rumble, and I think that's going to make things a lot smoother for us. Okay, now let's go over here and share it. That's it. Share. All right, here we go, and then we'll do this, and I'll pray us out, unless you guys have got another question for me. Let's see if we can go theater mode with this. Oh, Eric, that's nice. He says the last 2 nights, just as I've started the updates, we've had beautiful rainbows here, just an assurance that God is in control. Yeah, I'm definitely a praying person, and I feel like God is building a testimony in me about healing. That's it. That's my story, my friends. All right, I lost my chat here. Hold on. Oh, that's not it. Okay, don't close that because that would be very bad. Okay, let me come down here and find the. That's it. Can we remove the part? You were at home and you got bed sores. Yeah. What is okay? So we got the video done. I was fevered. Whew. I went through countless antibiotics, then a PICC line for 10 months. Oy vey. Read up on the hydroxychloroquine. I think you were, now I can't remember who said they had chronic Lyme. Your governor sucked. Oh man. I've really been very open about what I think about our governor. Pope so agree. Love you, Nurse Dr. Penny. Stay safe and see you soon. Please rest. Pope smokes, and I'll watch for that email. Debbie says, Penny, you were born for such a time as this. Like Queen Esther, we are each born in the right time and place for God's plan. Thank you so much. That's beautiful. Pope Smoke says, oh, also, have you finished your book? I would love to buy it. There are some new developments with the book, so I'm going to be having some news on that soon. I am aiming for a December release date. Because I'm featured as one of the stories in Pastor John Burke. I don't know if you guys know him. He wrote a book called Imagine Heaven. Well, he's got a second book coming out, and my story is one of the featured ones. So I just feel this is the right time to finish it, because it makes perfect sense to release that on the heels of his book. And a friend has come into my life who is going to now be helping me with that. And God is just so good all the time. Nadine says, I wish I could sit with you and talk. I'm so grateful the Lord led me to your 2 videos 2 years ago. I'm blessed to now know you, dear Penny. Oh, you guys, I love you so much. We're just a mushy crowd, aren't we? We have the best chat. You tell me anybody who's got a better chat than we do. There's nobody. If there are, we'll take them out. No, I'm just kidding. I want you guys, if you're watching me on YouTube, please consider coming over to Rumble, because I want to be able to share music videos with you, and I can do it over here. Like videos I find really inspirational, and God really puts videos on my heart to share with you. Like during the week, it'll just be weighing on me heavy, and I'm like, man, I can't show it because of the YouTube crowd, because it'll get me knocked out. But if you guys would come over to Rumble, I could show you those videos, and it would add a lot more depth to what I can do here. So just consider it. I know you don't want a bunch of other media. You just have to do the sign up one time, and that's it. And then You know, I put and also if you go to my website and you sign up for my Substack, you can get there from my website, and that's in the description. You sign up for my Substack, you'll get well, if I remember, you'll get a reminder every time I do a video or I go live. But just another good place. I use Rumble for another show that doesn't want to use YouTube. There you go. Just come on over. Oh, see, Nadine's on Rumble. You're showing up on YouTube here, but Juboob says, wow. Penny, don't you feel like crying when you watch it? I do. I do. It was hell. It was absolute hell. You guys, there was this day. It was 6 days into everybody fighting for me to get the meds. And I was like, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And I got on and I said, you guys, it's not going to happen. But I love you. And what you've done has meant the world to me. And I don't understand why. I don't want to die of this. But here's the thing. Sometimes it takes great tragedy to bring light to a situation. So if that does happen to me, tell my story, because I don't want this to happen to anyone else. I had a legal prescription that they would not fill. And I had been on it, but at too low of a dose, and it was working. And then in the 3 or 4 days that I had been on it and started getting worse because the dose wasn't high enough, the pharmacies decided they weren't going to fill it, even though there was nothing saying they couldn't fill it. And we couldn't get it. And I was bad. I was so sick. And I, in that moment, so I'm telling them that, I'm like, tell my story. Don't let this happen to anyone else. Do what you can to bring light to this. Because at least the tragedy of what happened to me might save someone. You know, at least some good could come from it. I needed it to mean something. And I was sitting there and I was thinking about, and I think I talked about that day. There's a story in the Bible about Job, and Job, Satan and God get in this conversation about Job, and Satan's like, well, you only love Job or Job only loves you because you're so good to him. If he lost everything, then he wouldn't love you anymore. And so God says, do what you will, just don't kill him. And so all this calamity, I mean, he gets boils, just every horrible thing that can happen. And everybody's telling Job, his friends and family, just curse God and die. And Job, and I always hated this story. I'm like, what kind of God would do something like that? And to that day, I'd hated that story. And, here I'd had a near-death experience and everything, and I still hated that story. I didn't get it. And I was sitting there, and I said, but Job walks out, and he says to God, though you slay me, still I will trust you. And that day, it made sense to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, Penny, what's wrong with you? You're not your physical body. You are a spirit inhabiting a physical form for a time. Job knew that even if his physical body died, he would be with the Lord. And so there was nothing to worry about, because either way, he was going to be okay. And it hit me that day. And I remember saying to God, okay, though you slay me, still I will trust you. And I ended that video. And at 4:45, a friend from New England called me and said, I got hold of Larry at the Board of Pharmacy. He wants you to call him right away. And so I called him, and he's like, it's 4:45. I don't know if I'll be able to fix this today. I can't make them fill it, but I'll call them. He stayed until 7 o'clock, or I can't remember how late he stayed, but we got the word, and the pharmacy, I think, was open till 7. And he said, your prescription's ready. Send your husband to go get it. And that's what started me on the road to recovery. And it was long. It was long. I mean, it probably took me a year to get all the way back, because I mean, when you've got that much damage, it just doesn't go away overnight. Yeah, American Frontline Nurses did. So my case, if you guys go all the way back to the very first video I posted on Rumble, just keep going through the pages till you get to the very first one that I ever posted. And it's me giving a speech at a freedom rally. It was my very first one that I rewrote waiting to give it. And I was so nervous, and you can barely see me in the video, but you can hear me. And I titled that speech, Dr. Fauci, America's Coroner. Go back and watch that video. If that does not light a fire under you, nothing will. But I actually signed with America Frontline Doctors legal team to be represented in hopefully what will soon or someday come to a case against pharmacies who refuse. They're working on a class action to go after these pharmacies that refuse to fill legal prescriptions for patients. Janet says, thank you, Penny. You saved a lot of lives. Thank you. So sorry you had to go through that, but it did make me stronger. And I wouldn't change it. I've learned so much. I am a different person because of it. Janet, yeah, it is you with the chronic Lyme. It's awful. Well, like I said, look into the hydroxychloroquine for that. I think you'll be surprised at some of the data you read. Yes, the spirochete pathogen. Thank you for that. This group is all heart. Pope Smokes, your book will live far beyond what you can imagine. I can't wait to read it, and I do not like reading. Well, I've got 13 chapters done. And so yesterday I set up writing times for myself 4 days a week that I'm just going to turn everything off and get it finished. The 13 chapters actually went pretty quick. My goal is to get to 20. It doesn't need to be too long. And I just didn't know how to end it. I'm like, after I write about the near-death experience, like there was no natural ending. I didn't want to end it there. And then COVID hit and I stopped writing. But now I look back and I think that's why I couldn't figure out how to finish it, because the story wasn't finished yet. So that's definitely going to be coming. Nicole Siratek, yeah, founded America Frontline Nurses. She reminds me so much of you. I need to meet her. She's friends with a friend of mine, Tracy Beans. And so I need to get Tracy to introduce us. Nadine, my son died from suicide 20 years ago. One day after I heard, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh, blessed be the Lord. In that tragedy, I've learned to hear, oh my goodness, from God's word and love all his people. That's beautiful. I am so sorry for your loss. Know that he's okay. And that he absolutely is, as close as your next breath. They're still here. It's so hard to explain. I wish I could explain it better, but he still knows you. He's still aware of you. Feel free to talk to him. That relationship is a geography problem. It's not a living dead problem. RJ, that's how I found you, from the Wren's legal team. You found me from Wren's? That's interesting, because I don't think I've ever done anything with Wren's. The legal team I'm with is the Frontline Doctors, but I've never done anything with them either. I fell in love with those brains of yours. I tell you what, I am blessed. Short and sweet is the way to go. Yeah. Don't say any more than you have to. Be succinct. Debbie, miracles wait to be brought forth. They sure do show up in awful circumstances sometimes. Thank God he does do them, though. Yeah, well, I mean, what miracle could you do in good times that would be super meaningful? None, really. I mean, things are good. I guess they could get a little bit better, but from devastation, you can do some pretty awesome stuff. That is the God's honest truth. Okay, guys, Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Oh, he was talking about a McCullough and watched him and found you. Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll probably start about 5 after, because I give everybody a little time to get in there since we're reading. We're doing Jonathan Cahn's book, The Return of the Gods. It is incredible, you guys. These next chapters that we're going to do Tuesday are going to be really good. If you don't have the book yet, can't afford the book, don't want to buy the book, don't worry. I'm reading it. I have a decent reading voice. So, and the first part is up. It's on my Rumble channel. Like 2 hours and 12 minutes. I think we got to chapter 8. We read 6 chapters. We didn't read the first 2. But yeah, definitely check that out. It was a really, really good time. And, we'll just be talking about it and comparing it to what's going on now. And it'll just give you so much insight into what the real spiritual battle is that's going on, so that you know how to pray and you know how to deal with people that are lost and, a hot mess. All right. Babies, lots of wonderful things. Is that the Jewish guy? Yes, Jonathan Cahn is the Jewish guy. He's a Messianic Jew. He was an atheist for I think till his teen years. Thank you for a good show. Yeah, is he a rabbi? Are they all rabbis? I don't know how that works. Like where he's a Messianic Jew, do they call him that? I don't know. All right, guys, let's pray us out, okay? Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day and for this time with my dear friends. And I mean that, dear friends. I just, I am in awe that you would use me in such a way. It's been painful, it's been hard, it's been infuriating, but every day our spirit just gets bigger and bigger. It's just crazy. You would think it would, I mean, there's days where it's draining, but somehow you fill us back up and you feed us for the fight. And I just thank you so much for that. I just, how much you love every person here, that you knit each of us together, that you have a purpose for our lives, that you don't want us to live in darkness and you don't want us to be led down the wrong path, that you want goodness and beauty and love for us. That's just amazing to me, that you love us that much despite how we can be. You are a good, good Father. And we just thank you so much for that. And I pray blessing over everyone that is here. I pray blessing over people who pray for me, people who donate. I pray that you would revisit that on them tenfold, Father. Fill their cup to overflowing and bless them because they've blessed me, your child. It's just, it's so meaningful, Father. And I just thank you so much for how we have this back and forth and we're just this like one organism that's all moving together, supporting each other. This is how we'll win the fight. It's not going to be through screaming and yelling and rioting. It's going to be through things like this, people coming together and waking up and acting in love and aligning on their principles and moving forward in that. And I just thank you so much that you've brought this group together to be part of this. It's incredible. It is incredible. Father, I pray for everyone who is lost. I pray for everybody here who's got family members who have pushed them away because of this. Most people have reached out to me and told me that they're struggling with that. I pray for anybody whose family members are struggling with gender dysphoria or anything that is other than how you perfectly made them. And I pray that you would bring them to a saving knowledge of you, because people think it's prison. Oh, you got to be God and you love God now and you can't do anything. It is the ultimate freedom. It is the ultimate freedom. And I want that for everyone, Father. Thank you so much for this time together. And I just pray your blessing over Tuesday ahead of time and just bring the people, Father, and I will give your word as best as I can. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, guys. Love you whole big bunches. AJ, you're so sweet. Nadine says, I absolutely believe there is no death. We just changed addresses. Beautifully said. Your story just made this truth more real. I just love you guys. You just have no idea. I get 10 times more out of this, I think. I'm in Kentucky. Uh, Amen. Amen, Pope Smokes. I hope you guys get feeling better. I'll be praying for you. Janik, I thought you were. Oh, okay, got it. Great weekend. Amen. It's all good. And amen. Have a great weekend and be safe, everyone. Debbie Bender, thank you for always praying for my shows. I feel it. I really do. Love you, Penny. Good night. All right, guys, I'm going to find my way back to the right screen and I'm going to sign us out here. And I will see you on Tuesday. Good night, Jew Boob. I'm so excited you made it. And Pope Smokes. I hate that you had to be sick to see the show, but I'm still glad you're here. God uses it for good, right? Muser, you take care. It's so nice to have new people in the chat. If you're watching this after, come and join us. We start at 8:30. We generally go to 11:30 because I know a lot of folks watch Salty, and so we want to kind of catch them. I usually try to send Salty some money and say, hey, send them my way when you're done, but I took a nap tonight and messed it up. All right, guys. I love you, whole big bunches. Nurse Penny out.